You know what I'm saying? The DA say, you know what I'm saying? They being open. They saying they want to destroy the Constitution. They want to bring Sharia law to America. Abdul El Shari, whatever his name is, got a video out there saying he want to have Sharia law push, and it's saying that Sharia law is a victimhood thing, and it should be welcome. No, even Iranians don't like it. That's why they come here to America. I'm gonna show some videos of different things and all that stuff, you know what I mean? But let's get it. Facts over feelings. Like, share, and subscribe.
Being the exact same.
I think if we want to be in the majority, we're going to have to be a big tent party. I would much rather have that diversity in our party than have it outside the party.
It's a big tent. I've always said I'd rather not be in charge of a party that is lockstep this way.
We do have a big tent.
It's tremendously exciting for all of us, for the big tent of the Democratic Party.
Look, the multimedia market.
We are a big tent party.
I do think the Democratic Party has always been known, and mostly this is good. Sometimes it's not, as a big tent.
You guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
A super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. They're just plain weird.
Just plain weird. Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate, they're weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird, it's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies.
Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was his talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone.
Says a guy he wants to put tampons in boys' bathroom, and just gave a person pardon that was known to have done some unimaginable things when a young little girl that's 10 years old. Yeah, he did some time, but he still should have stayed. Enough to say, no, he shouldn't have stayed. He should have been deported, period. He should have been deported. And ICE was going to get him, but Tampon Tim gave him a pardon. He should have been up out of here anyway. He should have been served no time. That's crazy. Thank goodness this man is not a vice president. And then, you know what I'm saying, $19 billion, if not more, in fraud. This dude is not in jail. Nobody. He should be in jail, him and Omar.
That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird.
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
J.D. Vance, plain weird.
No,
I mean, I don't know how else you can read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people. The other side, they're just weird. Why are you being so weird?
Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
That's the weird part that's the most engaging.
Okay, so y'all get the message. I just wanted to show you how mainstream media and Democrats are all in lockstep with one another. So don't ever let them tell you that they aren't. You just heard Democrats, along with mainstream media, all repeating the exact same things.
Always.
Against the exact same guy, J.D. Vance. All right? Now, something else is happening right now. It is happening across social media, specifically on TikTok. And if you guys follow my YouTube shorts, you've probably seen a couple of these clips already. But I wanted to highlight this a little bit more, okay? Because I think it's noteworthy, right? You have these influencers all repeating the exact same lines.
Glad you're here, bro. Appreciate it.
And it's the strangest thing ever. Like, you would think that Democrats would come up with something clever than just giving a bunch of people the same script and a check and sending them on their way. But no. They did it again. I'm gonna play. We'll go with like 4 back to back. All right. I'm gonna get quiet, and I want you guys to just listen to all four of these people speak. I got more clips, but I'm gonna just do four, just for the sake of time. I don't want to keep you guys here forever. Just listen to what they have to say and pay attention to how similar every single one of them is. All right? So with that being said, smack the like button, subscribe if you are new. Go and subscribe to my second channel as well. The link is down below in the description box. It is called Extra Rich. And let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome to the chat, Frey.
I was explaining to my friend from Italy how I literally cannot afford my rent anymore. And she was like, oh, but you live in Ohio, right? Like, isn't Ohio supposed to be pretty cheap? Like, it's not like New York or California. And I was like, yeah. Exactly, it used to be cheap, it used to be affordable, and now the prices for everything is so jacked up, and it's not proportional to how the state is. And my friend was like, don't you have a second job? And I was like, yes I do. She was like, oh my god, I thought that was for like extra like saving money or something. She was baffled that I actually have to have two jobs and I still can barely pay my rent and afford to live in Cleveland. And I was like, yeah, it's because of these MAGA Republicans that just support policies that jack up the prices for everyone and for the working class. And they do not actually care about the working class. And it's just so frustrating.
I was just talking with one of my friends here in North Carolina, and we both said the same thing. We both said we feel like that every single bill we get just keeps getting higher, whether that's groceries, gas, home insurance, like it all adds up, and we both think it has to do with the MAGA Republicans and lawmakers. And this is exactly why I'm going to be doing my homework this year before I vote, because I want to know, and you should too, where every candidate stands on this affordability crisis in North Carolina right now, how they're going to solve it and make everyday life better for all of us.
So this foreign exchange student who I used to go to school with back here in Michigan just reached out to me and asked me what is going on with the cost of living going up. And she was like, oh wait, you probably don't have to worry about that because you live in Michigan. And I was like, oh baby, no. And she was like, what do you mean? Michigan is so affordable. And I was like, girl, I have two jobs and can barely afford groceries. And when I tell you, she was so horrified that the call just went silent until she asked me, wait, didn't MAGA Republicans promise you guys more affordability? Yeah, they did. But instead, I'm working twice as hard for barely anything while they wage war in the Middle East. Make it make sense.
I was talking to my friend from Europe about the cost of living in Ohio and just how everything has gotten so unaffordable, and he was literally shocked. He was like, but Ohio's a cheap state, I thought. I was like, yeah, it used to be, but to be honest, there's no such thing as a cheap state anymore. He says, but you have a second job. Isn't that for like fun stuff or saving and stuff? Like, just use that for now. I was like, you think my second job is for fun? It's for survival. Have you seen the cost of gas after the MAGA Republicans started a war in the Middle East? Have you seen the cost of groceries in Ohio after the MAGA Republicans did all these tariffs? I was talking...
Slow down.
You see what I mean? It's so fake. Like they're all. I was talking to my blank European, somewhere overseas friend, and then they mentioned, well, don't you have a second job for fun? You thought the job was for fun? The MAGA Republicans literally all saying basically the exact same thing, down to a T. The overseas friend, the second job, the MAGA Republicans. I've got other clips too, bro. Like this is just like so strange. It's like this is what y'all got. Like maybe Democrats, this is why you don't win. Because you come up with stuff like this, which is a lie, but it's also super fake. Like the Democrat Party is allergic to being genuine. They're allergic to it. They're not and if y'all don't believe me, because I know somebody's out there, oh, you just only found a couple of clips. No, I've got several of these. I've got more. Matter of fact, here's one. Here, check it out.
My cousin from Scotland just got in touch with me, and how the price of living has gone up like crazy. And he was all like, but you live in Ohio. Like, you don't really have to worry about it, right? Like, that's pretty cheap. It used to be. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I have two jobs and I can barely afford it.
And he's all like, with two jobs, you cannot afford to live there. I thought you had a second job just to have like extra income.
No! And he was so in shock and absolutely horrified. And he's all like, well, isn't that what MAGA, like, promised you guys? Yep, sure did. But they decided to prioritize a war in the Middle East that we didn't need instead. My cousin...
Think I'm joking now?
Right, they crazy.
And also, the crazy thing is, like, a lot of these accounts, most of them are new. Like, less than 2,000 followers. A lot of them only have like 100 and something followers. But they're posting this stuff all over the place. It's crazy. Absolutely wild. So fraudulent, so fake. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that to you all. So please share this video, hit the arrow button down below, copy the link, paste it on your Instagram story, on your Twitter account, on your Facebook, send it via text message. I don't care. Share it everywhere. Share it. Because people need to see this type of stuff. Right? This is just so weird and fake. Like, what? At least be genuine. I would accept that. Be genuine at least. But it's just like all the same script. Overseas friend, second job. Oh, I thought your second job was just for fun. Oh, well, MAGA Republicans. Oh, well, you live in X state, so you're good. It doesn't affect you. So, you can't make this stuff up, man. You really can't. But get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions.
I can't do racism. I just can't. It's a nasty, vicious spirit that I will call out each and every time.
Welcome to the chat. Name is Deontay Rants and Rave. Like, share, and subscribe. Facts over feelings. F your feelings, you guys. You know what I'm saying? We're adults. Adults is in the room. Let's get the truth out there. Let's educate each other. Be offended. Let's grow.
It approaches me. Have I dealt with white people that are racist? Of course I have. I'm 51 years old. I cannot tell you that I went throughout my whole life and never dealt with it. Of course I have. But it has been few and far between. The most I've ever dealt with racism is these past 2 years. And it's been by the hands of other black people. People with the same color melanin, lighter or darker, but still in that spectrum as me. And if I'm being honest, if I have to take an inventory of my entire life, black people have been some of the most racist people I have ever come in contact with.
What's going on, everybody? I appreciate you guys pulling up today. We got to check out this video from Speak Your Voice first. Shout out to this sister here, and she's absolutely right. And to be honest with you, I want to go take it a step further. The racism that we see, especially here, on this platform, in my real life and regular day life, I can't even say that I've personally experienced racism. I'm 46 years old. I've lived on both coasts, traveled the world. I would say the only place that I could say that I've seen racism was in Italy. Like, just outright in your face. And even then, it wasn't pointed towards me. It was pointed at someone else. But I did get a chance to see it. It may happen here in our country, but it's definitely a lot more covert than overt in the past. But I will say, I do agree with this young lady here in the sense of I've heard some very evil, vile things come out of the mouths of some black folks, specifically black liberals. We've watched online crazy things happen and people say crazy things to black ICE agents and black law enforcement. And this is from black folks and from white people. I think at this point now, and it's probably always been the case, the most racist people in the country are liberals. And it doesn't matter how much or how little melanin they have. It's liberals. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, some of the most racist people in the country are liberals. That's been my experience.
My experience of racism has raised its ugly head within the black community, and it tries to disguise itself as being caring, loving, empathetic, inclusive, tolerant. But I'm going to call it just what it is. You're racist. The same thing you accuse white people of doing, you do yourself. You don't want to be judged by the color of your skin, but by the content of your character. But yet and still, you judge white people each and every day by the color of their skin, simply because they white. Now, am I talking to all people with the skin skin tone as me? Of course not, because I'm not like that. But I'm talking to quite a bit of majority of you guys. It's sad. And I'm telling you right now, you're on that broad pathway, marching down to the pit. And I blame a lot of the pastors, a lot of the churches, because y'all preach that stupid black liberation demonic theology that's leading a lot of people to hell.
No, she's 1,000% there. Matter of fact, you actually now in what is considered the quote unquote black church, they don't really preach a real gospel. It's not about, saving souls and discipleship. It's black liberation, and it's black idolatry. That's what you hear in a lot of these churches, and that's a lot of the reason why I have removed myself from those types of churches. I refuse to go. The last one that I went to, the pastor flat out said that he was pro-pregnancy termination, and that did it for me. I said, nah, I can't. A lot of these pastors to black churches, like Vincent Ellison said, he called them the Iron Triangle. These people are nothing more than the religious arm of the Democrat Party.
And I have nothing against nobody's religion, as if your religion is preaching hatred and not preaching peace and love, your religion is bogus. Why you want to hate? Why you want to unalive people? Because of different opinion. And speaking, this saying is because of Sharia law is trying to be pushed here in America. If it was about being peace, okay, cool, but it's not. They calling people infidels. If you like the opposite sex or the same sex, if you like the same sex, they gonna cut your head off or throw you off a building. Here in America is accepted, but with the Sharia law, it's not accepted. Free speech here in America is accepted. Sharia law not. And they trying to use the Constitution to infiltrate and use free speech to get they point across, and it's not cool. And it's all about hate. They want to destroy our women and children. And it's not a religion. MAGA is not a cult. That's a cult. That right there is a cult shit there. That shit wild. They want to marry little girls at 10 years old. Insane. Once again, Abdul Sharia, whatever his freaking name is, is trying to push Sharia law bullshit in America. I'm going to play the video after this.
And they are pro-pregnancy terminations. They're pro-open borders. They're defunding the police. They're pro everything that is wicked and demonic and wrong with our country, or at least from a policy standpoint. They're pro everything that would destroy our country. And now a lot of these people, they have been infiltrated by these communists. I mean, we watch Mamdani go and stand in the pulpit, at black churches up in New York. We watch this El Said character go and stand, with black preachers out there in Michigan, in the Detroit area. And it just goes to show, it's like, wait, what are y'all doing? Are y'all standing, on the truth of the word of God, or are y'all standing with the Democrat Party? And every time they get a chance to show us, they show us exactly where their allegiance is.
Does racism exist with white people? Of course it do. Not all. Some. Few and far between that I've come in contact with. Maybe some other region of the United States, it may be more prevalent. I wouldn't know. The Bible says, how can a man put his hand to the plow looking back? You see, back in the day when they would plow the field, they had the cows, the ox, whatever you plowed the field with, the donkey, whatever. If the man turned around and looked back, when he looked forward again, the lines were all zigzag. You can't plant seed that way. What kind of field is that? Too many of you are looking back in the past at stuff that didn't even happen to you, or stuff that happened to your ancestors and you didn't even know your ancestors. And you mad about something you never went through.
I'm glad she said that too, because I'm in a situation where I grew up without knowing my father. Does that make me a victim? No. You know what I'm saying? It made me become a better person, a better man. And to be there for my kids, Other than that, no excuse.
How sad to be so emotionally outraged about something you never been through. I encourage you, put away your skin idolatry. Because I'm here to tell you, if you take your last breath today, if God snuffed the breath of life out of you, you going to hell. That part.
And I'm with her 1,000%. Shout out to the sister. Y'all make sure y'all go and follow her. She's on YouTube, Speak Your Voice First. She's also on TikTok as well, Speak Your Voice First. And she's absolutely right. A lot of people are on their way to hell with gasoline draws, with this racist black liberation ideology. And it's sad because, I mean, I've heard it. You know, I go certain places and you hear folks and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, what are y'all talking about? And I can honestly say, as someone that has lived on the West Coast, the East Coast, in the South, I can honestly say that racism ain't prevalent like that. You know, I think there are more, you know, you hear about it more online. You know, and social media obviously has, you know, keeps things going. But in your day-to-day life, at least in my day-to-day life, it's not something that is experienced. My wife has been a small business owner, and a lot of her customers are, you know, people of all ilk, whites, Indian folks, you know, you name it. And they continue to support her business because she does good work and provides a solid service. And the sad part about it is the people that are least likely to support her are people that look like her. You know, when you hear all this, oh man, these white folks, this, that, and the third, it's just like, what are y'all talking about? It's really a wicked and evil mindset. And I love that verse that she used, you know, in reference to, you know, stop looking back. None of y'all have been slaves. None of these white folks out here have been slave holders. And to be honest with you, although there were some black slaveholders, none of them are slaveholders. You know, the opportunities are abundant in America today. That is a fact. And life is about choices. Every day you wake up, every day the Lord wakes you up, you get a chance and a choice. You don't get to choose the consequences. You don't get to choose the results, but you do get a chance and a choice. And we have so many people that are not taking advantage of the opportunities, and they are blaming their poor choices and decisions on someone else. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts about any of this? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family, or you can buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. I appreciate you guys supporting what we're doing over here. You know, we're fighting an uphill battle. We're on our way to 670,000 subscribers.
Right, on the road to 2,500 subscribers. We can get it, you guys. Let's get it. You guys see it. We growing. Check this video out.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Deontay Rants and Raves. Here in this video, I'm going to share with you guys how Abdul El Shahid, if I'm saying this name right, is trying to push Sharia law here in America, saying that it's being banned, trying to compare it to past sins of America as far as Jim Crow and slavery. But we all know Sharia law is the opposite of what the Constitution offers us. So I'm gonna let this video break down what's going on. I'm gonna jump in and out, my opinion. You know me, ranting and raving.
Category of victimhood, as Mr. Abdul El Said has some footage that he was not able to delete. This footage has made its way and it's going viral right this very moment. Listen to this. Everybody's talking about this. This is unbelievable. I thought this was AI. Abdul El Said advocates for Sharia law. Sharia law in the United States of America.
So this guy, I'm not for sure he's born in America or not born in America, but the way he's thinking, the way he's talking, that's third world country stuff. If that's the case, then keep that over there. He should not be in America or in power at all. We're getting this third world mentality here in America and disrespect the Constitution. How are you a public a leader, whatever you want to call, and you're going against the Constitution? You want to bring in Sharia law, which is against everything the Constitution is about. You voters, we voted that vote and do better. Stop voting everything about race. What are their policies? What they believe in? What line up with the Constitution?
America. He argues that the United States banned Sharia because of hate and discrimination. And the forces that banned Sharia law in one of these states.
People in Iran do not respect Sharia law. That's why they come here to America, to be free, not oppressed.
Are the same forces that committed historically every single act of evil. We have the video here in a moment. This is obscene political propaganda, putting Sharia law in the same category of victimhood as historic American tragedies.
Crazy.
It is a perfect...
Right, so you're using feelings instead of facts. You're using people's feelings to get them all worked up to go, or do anything stupid. Facts over feelings. Do your research on Sharia law, you guys. And, drop some comments down. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Because it needs to be shared. It needs to be talked about. Sharia law in America, no.
Example of how illiberal movements use liberal policies as a Trojan horse to smuggle in this case, their specific brand of Islamic authoritarianism. But you are right about one thing, Abdul. You don't know what any of this means. Take a listen to this.
Question 755. When the state of Oklahoma voted in a referendum to amend the Constitution.
I'm going to say this. If you was not born in America, you should not be in politics. Period. State or federal election. You should not be running.
Constitution to ban Sharia law. What does that mean? I don't know. And yet the voters banned it anyway. And I don't have to tell you that the same exact forces that drove native peoples from their land.
I don't hate nobody. I love everybody. But if your beliefs or religion, how you want to put it, is not advocating for peace, I want no parts of it. Nobody should. These people want death on you. If you don't like what they like, they want to kill you. So take that at that, because I don't like it. I ain't with that. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. That cost our sins. And God came in man form. Thank you, Father God. Thank you, Jesus.
2 centuries ago, destroyed Black Wall Street a century ago, bombed a building decades ago, and tried to ban Sharia law not a decade ago. Those forces are alive and well today.
Folks, look what he is doing. He is actually coming on out here saying publicly in a public speech, a video he most certainly did not want us to see. They tried to delete this footage. He says, banning Sharia law in the United States is akin to, it is the same as the Trail of Tears.
So it seems
it is the same as chattel slavery. It is the same as blowing up random buildings in acts of domestic terrorism. He says these things are the same as banning Sharia law. What he neglects to mention is that Sharia law is perhaps the most oppressive ideology, one of the most oppressive codes of law that has ever been imagined. It is completely and fundamentally incompatible with our United States American values. He neglects to say that. What he does is he paints himself and his radical Islamic community as victims to serve as a Trojan horse to then prey on the whims and good graces of
like, share, and subscribe, everybody.
Liberal white Americans. Trojan horse, get inside the wall and then unleash. And now it's Sharia law for everyone. Folks, you need to be very aware of what they're trying to do. Now, if you don't believe me, take a look at this. Recently, an imam in North Carolina explained articulately how to take advantage of America's freedom of speech to take over the country. They are planning on weaponizing the First Amendment against us to take over this country. Listen to this. Listen to this. Be aware. This is, by the way, this footage is from inside of the United States. This is not from Saudi Arabia or inside of Iraq.
This is how dangerous this is. This man is on American soil talking like this. Not good at all, man. Once again, you here, be here, and come here peacefully. As an American, we cannot go overseas and talk and do these things they doing here in America.
Okay, babe.
That's why they infiltrated the Democratic Party with this far left BS. Now, the Democratic Party in panicking mode, and now the voters are waking up, they seeing it. The internet does not lie, it's forever. So, let's continue. Yeah. Vote red. Don't be misled.
Ron, this guy lives in the U.S., in North Carolina. Listen to this.
We are in a gold mine. This is a deep water where if we have to launch big ships, Islam, Da'wah of Islam, this is a right place. No restrictions on Da'wah. No restrictions on Da'wah. Even if you go to Saudi Arabia, you cannot do Da'wah. you will be caught. This country, I can stand in the middle of Manhattan and I can call people, nobody can stop it. Trump cannot stop it. Biden cannot stop me.
Now here it is.
Nobody can stop me. About 50 years from now, Islam, Muslims will become the #1 religious group compared to Christians. In 50 years, inshallah, approaching Christians with the message of Islam is the easiest thing to do. We can start with commonalities, things that we both accept, understand, agree on theology.
Folks, he is inside of his little mosque, this imam in North Carolina, inside of our country. They're already behind the gates. Okay, we are beyond the Trojan horse phase. They are inside of at this point, if you will. They're out here openly talking about weaponizing the First Amendment to bring about the downfall of the United States of America. They are talking about strategically targeting Christian Americans.
This is not good, America. Wake up. Get out your feelings. Sharia law does not care or love nobody. It's bogus. America, baby. MAGA. Name is Deontay. Thanks for stopping by. God is in control. Like, share, and subscribe.
We have to talk about the DSA lie. So something many of you probably don't know about me is that I am a recovering far-left progressive liberal. I went to NYU for undergrad, I went to Penn for grad school, and I studied things that can't actually turn into any sort of real profession. I've got 7 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of degrees that I don't even really use. Dang. So understand when I say what I'm about to say, where I am coming from, which is that the DSA candidates who are taking over the Democratic Party right now, they are not actually powered by the working class people fighting for affordability. They are powered by people like who I used to be. Overeducated white or white-passing liberals with graduate degrees from reputable universities, many of whom have never even held a real job, like our current mayor, unless, of course, you count his failed rapping career. The Democratic Socialists, they are taking over New York City. They're taking over the Democratic Party. They want to take over our country. They want you to think that it is lower middle class working people who are rising up for affordability, but it's not. Let me break this down for you. The DSA's own membership is 85% white. The average age is 33. 80% of them have college degrees. We're not talking about factory workers here. These are grad students. They are nonprofit staffers. They are people with master's degrees in sociology. Their concerns with affordability are about the fact that they have been in school for 15 years. Never thought to finish and actually join the workforce. So yeah, affordability is an issue for people like that. And you know, all of this would be fine and harmless, except for the fact that they are playing you and they are winning. And the thing is, their agenda is not about affordability at all. It is about their hatred for this country. Yeah. The DSA now claims over 250 elected officials nationwide. They are taking over the Democratic Party from city councils to Congress, and they are doing it with the votes of privileged white college graduates who have also been taught to hate this country in their Ivy League classrooms, like the ones that I also sat in. They hate America's history, they hate its institutions, and they even hate its flag.
Johnny Moore, the U.S. needs to be like Portland. F no. U.S. need to be like U.S. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem now. Stop trying to make U.S. be part of the other countries. We are America. We good to go. 250 years, baby. What's wrong with y'all? That's over there. Stay over there. If you like Portland and you talking about this in the chat, we'll live in Portland. Stay over there. This is America, baby. I know you want some Portland. Stay over there with that. This is America, baby.
Look, I am not against education. I use my education in non-traditional ways every single day. I am against exploitation and lies. And these DSA politicians and their supporters, they are not.
Good one, coconuts are real. Right, he's spamming. He's gonna say the same thing over and over again. Definitely a bot. Get him out of here.
Fighting for the working class. They're fighting for their own ideological vanity project. Yep. And it is being funded by upper middle class white guilt and paid for with other people's money. The DSA is not a working class movement. It is a campus movement, and it never left college. It is a sneaky sideways takeover of the Democratic Party by people who hate America, and everyone is falling for it.
She is 1,000% spot on, and I do appreciate her courage. I appreciate her courage and willingness to get out here and tell the truth, especially as someone that was a part of it, that had a chance to see it. I talked a bit about this earlier in the week or last week, about the DSA, who they actually are. Now, they have used, some higher melanated people, and they've put them out in the forefront. But when you look at who's actually behind them, and you look at who is, who is.
To my knowledge, I could be wrong, and chat, you can guys correct me. But it seemed like the people from the DSA is mostly non-Americans. You know what I'm saying? They lived here for a long period of time before I was being born here. I don't think they was born here. And they politicians. That's not cool. They shouldn't even be in politician. What the blank? Because you see, they get here, they bring in, institute this doggone third world BS. And it doesn't work, period. 7 countries tried it. Russia, Venezuela. You name it. So all of them, it didn't work. Insane.
The part of this organization, like she said, 85% of them white. Most of them have, at minimum, a bachelor's degree. A lot of them have masters and PhDs in skill sets, or I can't even say skill sets, but in in degrees or majors that will not make money and that are not or will not give them the ability to be productive members in society. And they're upset. Y'all saw the video last week. There was a young lady out in LA, and she was just getting, blasted with questions, and she couldn't answer them. And then she came out and said the quiet part out loud. I'm angry because I have $500,000 in student loan debt, and I can't get a job doing what I study. But when you go and get degrees in gender studies, sociology, psychology, and a host of other, of these other, majors that don't really make sense. Because they're not in demand. They're not needed. And you've taken on, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in debt, and you're frustrated because no one will hire you and pay you more than $40,000. You're upset. This is a college ideology that is being pushed and cosplayed as a push for working class, lower and middle class individuals. But when you look at the data and you look at who's supporting these people and who's anti this, working class people who actually did not go to college, they're seeing right through it. So you have to ask the question, who's really uneducated? Because the people that quote unquote don't have an education, they graduated high school, but they're smart enough to see through the foolishness of the DSA. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep going.
Stop calling me a cis woman. I'm a straight woman. Don't know why you had to make up another thing for that. Stop calling me a birthing person. I'm a mom. Stop making weird. Stop saying that I'm chest feeding is breastfeeding, okay? If you can actually breastfeed a baby, then you're a woman and you're breastfeeding. Yes. Stop saying everything white people do is racist. You're making yourself a victim and keeping racism actually going by yourself. Stop telling women that we don't understand womanhood and that we don't have the proper or most beautiful understanding of it, and that people do. Stop saying that
Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Name is Deontay. I'm MAGA. If you're not MAGA, it's all good. Common Sense Channel. Adults in the room. F your feelings. Let's get it. Let's learn.
Trans women which are guys, by the way, are more women than women are. You're a guy. That's up. I'm so, violently sick at the thought of the world right now because you guys are mentally ill as... yeah, I might be slightly crazy, but you're... And stop saying I'm transphobic. That would mean I have a phobia, a fear? I'm not scared of you. I just don't like the shit you guys say anymore. You guys are disagreeable as hell. You're insane. And I really genuinely want you guys to realize that you saying you care about women's rights and then single-handedly trying to take away all of women's rights and everything that real women are makes you the most against women's rights people on the planet. I hope you get that. Oh, and one last thing. Stop demanding that everyone have respect for you. I don't care. That's stupid. Stop demanding everyone call you what you want to be called because you're playing an imaginary game. If you're a dude, you're a dude. If you're a chick, you're a chick. Stop demanding everyone play your game. It's so ridiculous. Go ahead and blow up my comments too. I have the most I don't give a attitude about this anymore because if you disagree, you are just outing yourself as mentally insane. I don't care.
You know what? I can appreciate this young lady. I'm sure, I don't know, maybe she went to college and, or at least high school, and she's been told that, hey, you got to capitulate to crazy. And I'm glad she just said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done playing with y'all. I'm done playing the games. And the thing is that the people that tell you that, hey, you need to be inclusive and we all need to be more inclusive and we all need to be tolerant and we all need to, just show grace to all of these people. They are some of the least inclusives and some of the least tolerant individuals on the planet. You can't make this up, man. All the people that are out here virtue signaling, telling you need to get on board with everything, they're the least tolerant of your beliefs.
How you doing, Scott?
Make it make sense.
Vander.
I finally get it. I finally understand why liberal women don't like President Trump. Because for months, y'all have been coming into my comments and asking, why y'all support him? He's literally trying to take away our rights. And what right is that exactly? Well, to stop y'all from being lunatic gangs? So as y'all may or may not heard this week, Massachusetts governor signed an abortion law allowing abortions all the way up until birth. You skanks are really willing to take their kids right up to the final moments of having. It's really despicable that now that the woman's womb is no longer a safe space for children. It's so selfish because y'all know the act that it takes to be able to make a child. And if you know that you're not going to want the kid, why do the act? And that's how I know a lot of y'all are demons and y'all just don't like following God and following God's law. It's really funny how y'all are saying that President Trump is trying to tell y'all what to do with y'all bodies when y'all have a whole gay, white, liberal woman giving y'all permission to children. Ain't this telling y'all what to do with y'all bodies? And not only that, in the worst possible way ever. I don't have a problem with gay people because we have gay conservatives, great gay conservatives that put America first and that still follows God's law. Then you have these versions of evil gays that sit out here and promote the devil's work. I guess since she chose to not want to have kids, she want to bestow that same thing upon women when the Lord told us to be fruitful and multiply. And then you got the rest of them standing behind her cheering and clapping. They just look evil, like they just need horns on the back of their head. These are the people that you support. These are people, again, of the Democratic Party, which I always say supports evil. And in speaking of President Trump, he did something absolutely amazing this week. Snatched away Medicaid funding from these parents that is trying to have transgender surgeries on their kids. Which is great because I don't want my taxpayer dollars to fund your demonic activities. I truly cannot believe that y'all are out here electing for your children to have their gender change because they're not grown enough to make these kind of decisions. It's y'all making the decisions for them. Y'all sick asses are out here changing the genders that God already given them. It's truly unbelievable how sick y'all are out here. And if you are out here aborting your kids, and if you are out here switching their genders, I truly hope and pray that you get the VIP stadium seats to hate. Y'all need an express charter flight to the devil's house. No concessions, no intermissions, just straight up Lake of Fire.
Hey, she gets no pushback or argument
no filter,
from
baby.
me. I've said it. The liberal agenda is antithetical to the word of God. And I know there's a lot of pastors out there, there's a lot of preachers out there that are telling people go and support this wicked agenda, this wicked party. But I would say that those people, they are not of God.
Because at the end of the day, our body belongs to God, period. That's the thing about it. Our body's not our own. It belongs to God. He chooses when we live and die. Not man.
These people are of Satan. They are Satan's creatures. And if you are in a church like that, you need to get out of that environment. Because those dudes and those people are leading you straight to hell. No ifs and buts about it. I've said it for quite some time that some of the most wicked people in the country are liberal women. And that's liberal women of all ilks.
Right, because they got that white guilt bullshit. We don't need it. We no guilt. That's the problem.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. If they're liberal and they're supporting the Margaret Sanger ideology, we got to keep them up in prayer and hope that they repent and turn from their wicked ways. And we need, I'm talking to my true Bible believing followers of Christ, men and women. You can't just sit idly by and allow these people in these positions of power to push their wicked agenda upon the masses. I'm calling you guys.
Right, that's tight. It takes two to make it, things go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. Good one.
Out, man. Men and women, wherever you are, go and fight for these local seats. School board, city council, county commission, state representative, state senate, you name it. We need you in there.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be sitting back idle by and allow these people to push this wicked agenda upon the masses. And then we as Christians, we sit back and just like, well, hey, we're waiting on Jesus to come. Well, we're supposed to occupy until he comes back.
Right.
You got a job to do. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section.
Gospel,
what are your thoughts?
News.
Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family, or you can buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. I appreciate you guys supporting what we're doing over here. And as always, keep God first, stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Peace.
It is God who arms me with strength. Yeah, I'm battle ready.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And here's the meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, folks, it was truly inevitable, now wasn't it? And I'm frankly very what's going on, because this is what I predicted months ago and was frankly hoping to happen. In terms of my midterm analysis, one of the factors that I've been mentioning over the last couple of months is the current division and disillusion within the Democrat voter base. The far left is the blue-on Democrat voter base, and of course, they want Abdul El-Sayed, they want Francesca Hong, they're interested in the far left candidates. But now you got this overall situation where the establishment Dems are essentially working to block them. And this creates, I think, a very interesting scenario, a very interesting situation where the Democrats are relying on two things to usher in a blue wave here. The first being voter enthusiasm and the second being unity. They need to form a unified front, but not just that, a very enthusiastic unified front that's ready to rush to the polls and usher in this massive blue wave that the Dems are looking for. And I don't know, something tells me there's a rift that's being created between these two sides, these two factions, these very opposing, diametrically opposed factions, frankly. And the question, of course, being, is that
that going to have an impact? Are young Democrats going to show up in droves in an off-season election to vote for a party that is actively attempting to oust them from said party? Well, only time will answer that question, but let me tell you, we're certainly starting to see some evidence of a massive rift being created. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so once again, we've got Democrat strategists sounding the alarm. Take a look at this.
Look, Hasan Piker may be an asset in a primary where people want a dog whistle to, as Hogan said, the crazies who unfortunately are a significant part of our base, but he is poison in a general election. And I whether it's in Michigan or Wisconsin, he is not, there's a reason he's not on the ballot. So I think Hasan Piker, hopefully his days are numbered, but he wants to be a player, and that's a problem.
Very interesting indeed. This is the second Democrat strategist, another lifelong Democrat coming out publicly and utterly excoriating the far left, and in this case in particular Hasan Piker, just this week. And what's interesting is that's a Democrat strategist basically giving you a glimpse into what, Democrat strategists that are currently on board are likely saying behind the scenes. And they're, interestingly enough, saying exactly what we've been saying. That Hasan Piker has got this big bloated ego, along with all of these other far leftists, from random obnoxious Reddit users all the way to Bernie Sanders. They seem to imply that Democrat socialists of America, the far leftoids, the Mamdani types, are not just electable, but rather the most electable. But very clearly, that's copium. It's delusion. In fact, it's the exact opposite of the truth. The reality is, these guys, I gotta give it to them. They can run a heck of a primary.
Common sense, welcome. What's up? How you been?
Zoran Mamdani, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can secure nominations. They can win in far-left blue districts and big blue cities. But in a general election sense, let's just put it the way Dan Turrentine put it, they're electoral poison. And that puts these Democrats in quite the interesting predicament. Because currently, as it stands, it seems almost as if you have to bow down to Hasan Piker and his fans to even stand a chance in the nomination process. Now, obviously, that didn't exactly work out so well for Francesca Hong, but that's Wisconsin, and I'd say there was some bigger issues there. Probably the biggest issue being Francesca Hong herself, kind of like a Kamala Harris phenomenon, just a very awkward, very lacking in charisma kind of individual. And
Thank you for watching my video earlier, Red Hood. Thank you guys for watching my video from earlier. Thank you.
really felt like she had no wind in her sails as this thing was going into the late game. She looked, frankly, like she didn't actually want to be there. Like she had essentially given up, and of course people can sense that subconsciously. They can just feel that, there wasn't any passion there. Then put all the scandal on top of it, and, not exactly a brand of confidence. But if you look before the downfall, again, speaking to the Democrat primary process, going on Hasan Piker's stream was almost like a rite of passage. Show up there and, give all the promises, speak to the young Democrat crowd that basically controls the direction of these primaries these days.
Rapid fire, do you support repealing Act 10?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Free school meals?
Yes.
Guaranteed paid leave?
Yes.
Abolishing ICE?
Yes.
A 1-year data center moratorium?
Yes.
Breaking up big ag?
Yes.
Public grocery stores?
Yes.
Right.
And that's the thing about it. About 80 million people voted to make sure the border be closed, to make sure ICE do their job. And these idiots keep on saying they want to abolish ICE, and you want to win over us voters, not just MAGA, because not everybody was MAGA that voted to have the border be closed or secure, how you want to put it. These people are insane. They don't get it. Now the Democrat Party panicking. Oh, we don't associate with them. Yes, y'all do. You keep on saying defunded the police. So the people that's Democrat socialists thinking, okay, well, if you keep on saying defund the police, that means go ahead and defund them. Don't have them at all. Same thing with the police. Come to precincts. Don't have no priests, no jail cells. Just basically, they want chaos, no order, and they have no plan to back up the bullshit. No plan. Just tax the rich. Amazing.
To repair.
Yes.
Legalizing cannabis.
Yes.
Overturning Citizens United.
Yes.
A workers' bill of rights.
Yes.
A free Palestine.
Yes.
You kind of need to kiss the Hasan ring to even stand a chance, especially in more far left states. We're still seeing this phenomenon play out, by the way, despite the crashing of Francesca Hong.
I don't know if I can give this to you or your guy here, but I'd like to get on the stream sometime, which just lays out why I think this race is worth fighting, worth winning.
All right.
thanks for standing strong, brother. It's been a hell of a couple weeks.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Michigan Democrat William Lawrence, who's currently running for a House seat. That clip, I think, pretty self-explanatory, speaking to this phenomenon of showing up on Hasan Piker's stream now being a rite of passage in the Democrat circles. And so Democrats truly are, in my view, stuck between a rock and a hard place in a very difficult situation. This stuff is electoral poison, but they also can't afford to disavow it.
I know you're a Democratic candidate for Congress. You are, however, a member of the DSA, and there are opponents of that movement who point to the failed socialist governments in Latin America as proof that socialism doesn't always work. And the DSA just in the last few days put out a statement commemorating the 100th birthday of Fidel Castro, which says in part he was an organizer, a fighter, and endures as a stalwart symbol of anti-imperialist struggle and self-determination for the global South. Do you agree with that sentiment? And does it concern you that this type of celebration of Fidel Castro is what might validate people's concerns with the DSA?
I'm not concerned with how people construe this organization. I'm interested in finding what we have in common so that we can move this country forward based on bold policies which...
Shadow, it's the same people that Obama had, Tom Homan and the ICE agents. Only thing about it is it was the media not scratching the people out by ICE agents coming to get their dumb ass. It's their fucking fault that they didn't get their visas together. It's not ICE's fault from doing their job. They federal agents, they doing their job. That's crazy. If the media stop agitating and lying, these people will stay at home. They're getting sent off. It's not Trump's fault. And people also died on Obama too, but you don't hear about that, do you? You didn't do no research on that. People died on Obama. People have died under Obama when it came to ICE agents, but you hear nothing about it. You don't do no research in your feelings. Welcome, welcome.
That poll suggests people are wanting, irrespective of political ideology or generation.
They can't even sign on to a letter opposing communism. They can't even say the words. They cannot utter the words, "We are capitalists." And yet they essentially need to. They need to disavow all of this far leftist stuff if they plan on standing a chance in the general election. And so it's kind of wish-washy.
Because the media is just blasting it. Yeah, that's all it is. The media did a ride along with the ICE agents. Channel 7 News, other news outlets, they all did ride alongs with the agents. Smiling about it. No issues.
Flip-floppy and weird, and seems like a general theme of utter dishonesty kind of oozing from this part.
I don't care if you working or not working. If you here illegal and then get your visa together, you ain't assimilate to America. I don't give a care how many days it is you been here. You ain't do your part, get up out of here. What are you talking about? Oh, they was working, okay. Did they assimilate? Did they get the paperwork together? You know what I'm saying? If they ain't do all those things, you gotta go. I don't care if they was working. You was working, then you get paid and get your license together, get your visa together, get your paperwork together, so you can stay here. So ICE will have to worry about bothering you. Stop the victimhood. Stop the excuse. Accountability, man. Come on, chat. Let these people know. Accountability. You know what I'm saying? Great again.
Right now, you've got these people speaking out of both sides of their mouth. You've got some of these individuals saying one thing, then the others saying another. You've got Hakeem Jeffries appears denouncing the entire policy agenda.
Do democratic socialists belong in the Democratic Party, Leader Jeffries?
Well, what I can say is that I do not support defunding the police. I do not support open borders. I do not support...
Shadow Pop, get out your feelings, man. People died up under Obama as well. What you talking about? Like it was peaceful. It wasn't peaceful. It was reported, but it wasn't mass reported. People have died. People got messed up, man. What are you talking about? 3 million people got deported. Out of 3 million people, you think it was that peaceful? Stop it, bro. Get out your feelings. Welcome to the chat.
Abolishing the Senate We're focused on actually solving problems that hardworking American taxpayers want us to solve, which is to lower the high cost of living in a situation where life is far too expensive in this country. That's the Democratic agenda. That's what House Democrats are fighting to achieve.
And so I think, regular, common, middle ground voters, they're going to be confused as to what the Democrats actually stand for. And then you've got the far leftoids who will be totally disillusioned, who will feel this intense feeling of betrayal. And that, to me, of course, signals complete dysfunction. And I just wonder these days how that's going to play out in the midterms. And probably more importantly, how that's going to play out in 2028 when all the attention, all the focus basically across the country is going to be on the election. That's the real deal election season, not an off-season midterm. And that's, of course, where Hasan Piker and his, ragtag crew of communist morons will be out in force like you've never seen before.
We'll be able to lean into their victories. So it'll be less difficult. It'll be easier to deliver our message. It'll be more difficult, though, because the establishment will not underestimate us. It will continue to undermine us, but they will not underestimate us. So...
Right, the border is open because they want to replace, the voters. If you're conservative or independent, whatever, they want to get rid of your vote and have the illegals to vote. Because, by us thinking and waking up, seeing the bullshit, they want some new voters in. Everybody started going Republican. Everybody started voting red. They started panicking. Open the borders. Let them in. Everybody voting red all of a sudden. We got to switch it up. I have no issues with nobody coming to America. Come here peacefully. Come here the right way. You come here and then you all say you get here bogus and then you start unaliving people and touching people in the wrong places and all that stuff. You gotta go. Ain't no due process. Get your ass up out of here. You broke the law getting here already, and you break the law again. Then you gotta stay in jail. No, take your dumb ass back overseas where your ass came from. That's stupid. Wasting our money and time on these people. 30 million people here. That's why everything's still up in arms as far as prices and all that. And you EBT and the Section 8 community, you guys really should be upset. They taking y'all guys' resources. And they're getting better resources than you guys. They're getting more money and better housing. And you guys been on it longer than them. And they're getting better than you. What's wrong with you guys? Facts over feelings, you guys. Wake up. That's crazy. This is illegal why everything's up so high.
The knives will be out.
And that's where these communist revolutionaries are going to make their biggest plays. And if you think these people are content with sitting on the sidelines, well, you have another thing coming. I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. And so people are going to listen to them speak or, whatever really vector of performance you could be talking about. These are the type of people that no matter what... Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And here's the meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Oh my, do I have a video for you guys today. There's people who deliver every time you listen to one of their monologues, every time you listen to them speak, or, whatever really vector of performance you could be talking about. These are the type of people that no matter what they do, no matter what they touch, it tends to turn to gold. People who always dependently deliver. And then, of course, on the flip side, there's people who do nothing but deliver disaster. Just the most embarrassing, incoherent nonsense you're ever going to hear. And one of these individuals is, of course, Cenk Uygur from the DYT. It's absolutely wild. The guy's a walking paradox. He claims to be the pillar of virtue, yet he's a complete, arrogant, bloated maniac who can't keep his cool for 2 seconds. He's an abusive clown. Not to mention, kind of hard to present yourself as the pillar of virtue when you have something like this in your resume.
I believe that if I were the benevolent dictator of the world, I would legalize bestiality where you are giving, where you are pleasuring the animal.
And it's not just Cenk Uygur's claims of moral excellence, but also his claims of intellectual excellence. He is so much smarter and so much more informed than you. That tends to be his debate tactic. What are you, stupid? I'm right about literally everything. Just freaking Google it.
You got me there. The unions give money to the Democrats.
Are you angry about that? I mean, does it upset you as much as, bankers giving money to Republicans?
No. The corporations give way more than the unions.
It depends which corporations.
That's okay. Look it up. You can Google it. It's really easy. Who was the one who came up with the Southern strategy? That was the Republican Party. And the Southern strategy was, let's go get racist white voters in the South. That's a fact. Once again, it's this wonderful capitalist invention called Google. Google it.
It's the all-knowing, highly intellectual Cenk Uygur, guys. Don't challenge him. He knows everything. You just need to Google it. This freaking guy, I mean, he acts as if he's the smartest person in the room who understands and knows everything. Yet every time you hear him speak, the only thing he delivers is, well, probably the dumbest thing you've heard all year, and that's exactly what this is. Holy freaking crap. Oh my lord. You just got to imagine the Democrat strategists behind the scenes are freaking out that Cenk Uygur and others like him are steering the policy direction of the party. Let me show you guys what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so Cenk Uygur said it, so I guess this is the official stance of the far left, the DSA Democrats.
There are young women who've been locked out of the opportunity to compete fairly and to succeed because somebody has come in and said, I identify as a woman, still got testicles, still got testosterone, still got male bone structure, still got male everything. You're saying that doesn't matter?
So what I'm saying is, so let's distinguish a couple of things.
Yeah.
So at the professional level and the Olympic level, first I say to my leftist friends, guys, leagues,
crazy.
leagues get to decide. You don't have a right to be in the WNBA. I don't have a right to be in the NBA.
Yeah.
They get to decide, and if you say they don't have an advantage, not only does the great majority of Americans not agree with you, I don't agree with you.
It's factually incorrect.
Right. A trans woman entered a weightlifting contest in her 40s and instantly lifted 200 pounds more than the biological women.
Yeah.
Although there's a meta study that studied 7 people and it was inconclusive. I read the studies. Nonsense. Okay. Now, why do I have a different position at the high school level? Because it's a balancing act. It's tiny. What is it? 13 kids, 130 kids out of a country of 330 million people. So when I look at the balancing interest there, I go, I understand what you're saying. I understand that it might be unfair, right?
Okay.
On the other hand, now we're going to have to check the genitalia of kids. I don't want to do that. That's too much. And you're going to tell a young trans kid, we're going to otherize you. We're going to ostracize you. You're not really a woman. You're not really a girl.
But they're not a woman.
Okay. All right.
But they're not.
But brother.
But they're not. If you've got a penis and you've got male testosterone and male bone structure, you're not a woman.
So when you become an adult, we can have that debate. But when you're a kid, I'm going to protect you. And I'm going to say, go ahead and ride in the race. And if you beat my daughter and it costs her this much out of the 13 cases in the country, and it costs her a little bit because she wanted to get into Yale, but she got into Dartmouth, I'll live with it. Because I'm not checking your genitalia and I'm not traumatizing you when you're a kid.
I mean, you gotta be freaking kidding me. And again, you know, just going back to what we've been saying basically since 2024, it's very clear these people learned absolutely nothing. There's no distinction between woke 1 and woke 2, woke 3, whatever the hell that is. And also, if you think about it, calling the first iteration of woke 1 kind of implies that the next version is woke 2. That almost suggests like a progression in this case of stupidity. But you know, there's kind of like a paradox built in here. That, of course, being these far leftoids calling themselves progressive when very clearly they obviously possess no ability to actually progress. Certainly not in terms of realizing their wrongs and then, of course, moving forward and undoing it, reapproaching a topic differently. No, this is very difficult for the left. Once they've adopted an ideology, it becomes more of a cult-like adherence to said ideology or whatever policy it may be. Full adherence to the dogma is required, or else that's pretty much the standard. But yeah, like I was saying the other day, you know, this was apparently the big thing that really hurt Kamala Harris in 2024, and now they're doubling down on it. That, of course, alone is very stupid, but then, of course, give it to Cenk Uygur if you want him to take it to the next level of stupid. And that, my friends, is exactly what he did. Cenk, who can do no wrong, hits us with possibly the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Well, of course men can play in female sports. What's the alternative? Traumatizing young people by asking to see their genitalia? Holy, I can't even say it without laughing because it's so incredibly dumb. And of course it once again gives us a glimpse into Cenk Uygur's overall psychological disposition. That's where he immediately goes. Mr. I would legalize bestiality if I was king of the earth. Immediately immediately goes to, well, we're going to have to look at those people's pants. He's such a moron. I can't even handle it. As if that's the way you tell gender. What an absolute ignoramus. And again, the party of science people. Oh, the party of science. Party of friggin' airhead cultists.
Yeah, the party of science, my ass. Dr. Fauci 111 times answered no question. The man pleaded freaking fifth. Straight monkey ball. The Democratic Party done but fraud, evil, and definitely confused.
No, Cenk, you don't need to traumatize anyone. First of all, people have, what are those things called again? Birth certificates, dumbass. Secondly, you can check the Adam's apple. You can tell by someone's hips, actually. Why not do an x-ray? But that would even be one of the more intrusive ways. You could also tell by chromosomes. Yeah, there's pretty much a million less intrusive ways. In fact, that's exactly what many sporting regulatory bodies are already doing. And once again, showing the illogic of left-wing thinking. Talk about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Well, I wouldn't want to traumatize one individual, certainly not protected to trans persons. So let's go ahead and absolutely destroy female sports as we know it. Let's deny thousands of girls eventually across the entire country scholarships and opportunities to compete within their own sporting leagues and events. Let's completely overturn and at some point eradicate female sports because you don't want a particular individual to feel traumatized. Very simply, it's like I always say, you simply cannot run a society with this kind of mentality. It's illogical. It's stupid. I always fall back to smaller examples. Think about how you would run your family, for instance. Would you raise your kids in that manner? Well, it doesn't matter. Doing the right thing doesn't matter, kiddo. As long as you don't feel bad, that's really what matters. That's how you raise an entitled sociopath child, a total out-of-control spoiled brat. And it's the entire problem with left-wing thinking. It's the type of stuff you wouldn't do in your personal life, although many of them, let's be honest, do. It's the type of thing that is clearly ill-advised on a personal basis, but they want to apply that illogic on a societal basis. Screw standards. Screw common sense. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so throw it all away. It's just so dumb, and it's crazy because this guy says this stuff not only with a straight face, but as if, he's making a good point. Oh, well, we'll agree to disagree. I'm pretty sure everyone disagrees with you. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard on multiple different levels. But Cenk, of course, Cenk just can't see it. Either he can't see it or he doesn't care, but I don't know. Something tells me he just can't see it. I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed.
10% of those married are married to their first cousin.
1 in 10 married couples are married to their first cousin.
In the world. In the world, yeah. So in the United States.
By the way, you think you don't know anyone who, in America, you were joking around that 1 in 10, etc. My grandparents are first cousins.
Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But it's very clear that this guy just ain't so smart. And of course, if we zoom out a little bit, it really shows what the Democrat Party is dealing with here. This is the grassroots of the Democrat. This is where, of course, the party is inevitably heading. And I gotta tell you, that to me, that just seems like electoral poison. And it also feels like the Democrat establishment is honestly powerless to stop it. I guess we'll have to see if these ideas end up winning out, huh? Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Showing us that all the way back in May, the Fauci cover-up continues to get worse. We now have new emails and messages that were sent internally saying one thing, where in public they were telling us something completely different. New releases from Ron Johnson are explaining exactly what went down, and we've got a new press release from his office showing us that all the way back in May 2021, a doctor called Janet Woodcock was writing about adverse events and people who got jabbed up, explaining what was going on, and of course, in the aftermath, Fauci never communicated that to anybody in public. He said, go get the shots, get them quickly, don't worry about any side effects. Everyone needs this thing. Here's more on what Ron Johnson said. He wrote, as our investigation continues, we have mounting evidence that time and time again, those responsible for watching the safety signals failed to warn the public when they saw them. They let people die and become permanently disabled because they didn't want to cause vaccine hesitation. hesitancy. Maybe there should have been vaccine hesitancy, and there were reasons to be hesitant about it. Here's what Ron Johnson said.
What we're doing this morning is I'm releasing one new text exchange with the Dr. John Mascola. He was the director of the Vaccine Research Center under NIAID. That was Fauci's division. And this is really where Fauci got the whole thing about fever. But it reads, I am corrected on pregnancy studies. Initial studies avoid vaccination in first trimester due to possible fever and higher rates of miscarriage in first trimester. Now, quite honestly, so that's where Fauci got the information on fever. I have no idea where Fauci got the information on significant cytokine storms. But this text really raises more questions than it answers. And of course, we immediately reached out to Dr. Mascola. Unfortunately, he immediately retained an attorney. And so we have been able to ask him just these simple questions. Just explain this to us. Hopefully, we'll talk to his attorney. Hopefully, he'll fully cooperate, and then we can at least answer these questions. We're also releasing an email off of Anthony Fauci's device that he received from Dr. Janet Woodcock. She was then the commissioner of the FDA. And she's reporting to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins that she is getting direct reports from including medical professionals of injection injuries. And, things that are hard to categorize. Quite honestly, they're the exact same kind of injuries that NIH, Dr. Nath, was diagnosing and treating as of March of 2021, very severe injection injuries. People like Brianne Dressing and Reactor 19 have been talking about this, that they've been treating, but they never acknowledge these things publicly. And even worse, in that study, Dr. Nath acknowledged for the vaccine injured, the injection injured, that early intervention, early treatment was crucial for successful treatment, and yet they told no one. So again, we see time and time again these government officials whose responsibility was to surveil for safety signals weren't doing their job. When they saw something, they covered it up. They kept saying no red flags, no safety signals. They lied to their teeth to the American public, and I can't tell you how many people died or permanently disabled because they didn't have that information to make the decision themselves in terms of risk-benefit.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of the main operative function of our healthcare providers, is to do no harm. They knew there was harm happening, and they did not tell anyone about it. So the press release came out saying today, Johnson, chairman on Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, and Rand Paul released new emails obtained by Dr. Anthony Fauci's emails produced by HHS, showing us that back on May 27, 2021, Janet Woodcock, so-called doctor, then acting commissioner of FDA, wrote an email to Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins about reports that they got directly from individuals, including other healthcare professionals, many of whom were silenced. If you were a healthcare provider and you spoke out about any of this, they would say, you're a quack, you're a conspiracy theorist, we're going to come for your license and steal it from you. So here's what the email ultimately said. You can see it is released here. The date confirmed, May 28, 2021. Anthony Fauci, Francis Collins, gets the email from Anthony Fauci, so Fauci knew exactly what was going on. And the prior email before Fauci forwards it is this, from Janet Woodcock over to Francis Collins, also copying Fauci on it. And then Fauci responds and leaves Woodcock off the chain. That's interesting. So here's what the doctor, so-called Janet Woodcock, said. Hi, everybody. I've been contacted by a number of people who have experienced adverse events post-COVID vaccine jab from all three of the current jabs. Oh, interesting. Many are healthcare professionals, some of whom I know. The symptoms do not fit together into a distinctive syndrome and are not easily quantifiable or evaluated with standard laboratory testing. Clearly, during mass vaccination, you will get a lot of psychological reactions, and it is hard to sort these things out. But the people's main complaint is that no one takes them seriously. No one knows how to treat them, and there is no effort to study this. Because if you studied something, you might find out what's happening. These problems are not the sort that a system like theirs would be able to detect, or even a more sophisticated population based on active follow-up such as the CDC has, or a medical record-based system such as BEST. I think it would be worthwhile to do a study and evaluate a cohort of these individuals. But of course, money needs to be made available to do that, and you would need an investigator who is interested in, quote, medical mysteries. I doubt the industry would support for obvious reasons. What are those reasons? They would find problems that would be damning to their vaccination campaign. But my experience is that if you let a problem fester, then it will come back to bite you later and you are not prepared, which is what's happening now. What do you think of this? J.W. Janet Woodcock. Yeah, so then Fauci says, Janet asks what we think of this. We cannot ignore her like we can some blogger. We should probably bring in CDC and see what Rochelle thinks. And we already know what they think because they came out in the aftermath of this and said it's fine, 100% effective. I mean 99%, I mean 97, I mean 95, I mean 90, I mean 80. I mean, we're not going to talk about effectiveness anymore. It's now something that is more like a therapeutic. You should get it anyways. And if you want more efficacy, go get a booster. What's wrong with you? Go get another booster and another one and another one. So
yes, sir, have another.
They knew. I would presume they had further conversations about this. Hopefully they're able to tap into those emails as well. But there was another document that was released here. So Johnson says, today, Rand Paul and I released some additional context to the message to doctors Vivek Murthy and Rochelle Walensky expressing concerns about mRNA shots theoretically resulting in miscarriage in the first trimester, something they said didn't happen. On January 25th, 2001, Dr. John Mascola, the then director of the Vaccine Research Center at the NIAID, texted Fauci. He said, I am corrected on pregnancy studies in this message. Initial studies avoid vaccination in the first trimester due to possible fever and higher rates of miscarriage in the first trimester. Oh, that would have been good to know, you know, for pregnant women, pregnant couples who just got pregnant. Should I go get the jab? Doctors, yeah, it's safe and effective. Go get it.
Right. Now the kids all messed up. They messed up.
And they were told the opposite of that. Okay, they were told that exactly. It's fine, go get it. But the fact is they were having conversations about the opposite of that. And it is just reprehensible. So both those now out. Here's what they say in the follow-up. Based on this information, it's unclear if Walensky was ever consulted at all. Now, by the end of May 21, when Acting Commissioner Woodcock wrote this email, Johnson explains, there were already over 400,000 worldwide adverse events, 8,600 deaths associated with this injection, all reported to VAERS. With 3,300, 39% of those deaths occurring within 2 days of the injection. Crazy. CDC used a contractor, General Dynamics, to...
Y'all a bunch of idiots if you took the shot and then continue to take the booster shots. Yeah, it's pretty much silly, man. Because Dr. Fauci, you know what I'm saying, once again, the man pleaded fifth 111 times. And you had the man on the news, you know what I'm saying, confidence, you know what I'm saying he gonna testify when it comes down to it because he knew that he trusted the vaccine. Years later, the man quiet. He's on TV every goddamn day. The man was a rock star. Couldn't get enough of him. Now all of a sudden he quiet. You know what I'm saying? Like a little rat he is. He like a little rat under the hole somewhere, under the cover, hiding this shit. Bogus, man. I quit my job because of the vaccine. I'm looking like I ain't taking the vaccine. I'm tired of these temperature checks. I'm tired of asking everybody that comes into the building where they been, how they doing. Here's a laptop, put your information in for this. It was a whole 10-minute process to enter the building where I worked at. I'm like, this is retarded. While all the red states still open, still making their moves, making money. While the blue states, everybody staying at home, you know what I'm saying, getting Section 8, whatever. Or like in Section 8, unemployment. Some people was getting unemployment. So, yeah, it was just wild. But you couldn't go nowhere. You want to go somewhere, you gotta get that shot. I'm like, damn, I want to go to, what I'm saying, overseas somewhere or go out of town. Gotta get the shot. I'm like, forget it. Me and my wife like, forget it then. We just stay here, you know what I'm saying, stay at home and chill. That was insane, them years, man. You couldn't do nothing. So when we did go out, I made sure if we went to a restaurant, I'm looking like, if they got a mask on, we're not going to that restaurant. So I'm looking around, people sit down eating, nobody had no mask on. We went in there and we ate, had a good time. It makes no sense to sit down with a mask on, eat, and put the mask on, eat, put the mask on, eat. That shit stupid as hell. On the real. And people was dedicated for that shit. He was mad at you for not wearing your mask. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Yeah, like when I was working, I was doing security. Yeah, get the manager. He's not wearing his mask fully up. His mask not fully up. Are you serious? Man, let me get this money and go home. F you and your COVID BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mask not gonna hurt you. If you can smell somebody's burp, fart, fried chicken through your mask, you can get COVID can go through the mask. Fucking idiots. He's not wearing his mask, manager. Your supervisor, he's not wearing his mask. Fuck you in that mask. That shit bogus as hell. I got tired of that shit. On the real. But let's continue the video.
Input reports into VAERS, and the 440,000 adverse events exceeded the GDIT's December 2020 worst case scenario of 1,000 reports per day by a factor of approximately 2.6. So they get a contract, they're like, oh yeah, we can enter 1,000 a day. Or a contract, what's the work product, what's the scope of the contract? Yeah, we can do what's like 200 a day, 300 a day. Okay, worst case, it's 1,000 a day. No, it's way more than that, times 2.6. As Johnson's report detailed 3 months before the 2021 email, on March 1, Dr. Peter Marks, director of the FDA Center for Biologics Evaluation and others, was warned by another doctor that the algorithm, and we read this report here, the algorithm the FDA was using to...
People having plastic bags on their head, on their hands. I'm like, are you serious? Alcohol hand wipes, the sales of alcohol hand wipes, that sales went up crazy. Those type of stocks for like alcohol wipes or anything with disinfectant spray, them stocks that year, we should get invested in. Anything disinfected should have been put money into and stocks in. We would have had some money, y'all. On the real.
Evaluate VAERS was masking and hiding safety signals. They say, oh, just calculate it this way. The calculation was illegitimate. The emails that we are releasing coincides with monthly data that was run by Dr. Sarsman using a new algorithm showing dozens of other safety signals like sudden cardiac death, pretty big safety problem, pulmonary infarction, pretty big problem. By the way, Dr. Fauci had one of those in June 21. Cerebral artery occlusion, basal ganglia stroke, agonal rhythm, and Bell's palsy, all as a result, but they just, those are just noise in the data, just suppress that. Unfortunately, FDA officials ignored the actual doctor and the safety signals. They told her cease and desist, and they continued to use the algorithm that they knew was masking the safety signals in the first place. And beginning on March 21, NIH, Dr. Avindra Nath, was leading a team of doctors and researchers. They were diagnosing and treating individuals severely injured by the jabs. The injuries and symptoms treated were similar to those being described and reported directly to the Woodcock Commissioner. Was Acting Commissioner Woodcock aware of that diagnosing and treatment of the COVID injection injuries at NIH? Question. And what senior FDA officials have been told about or shown that data? If that's all happened, why did she hide the knowledge from the public? Yeah, great question. Where were all these people? Like, sure, Fauci's a liar and a corrupt murderer, but where was everybody else? Where were the whistleblowers? If not, why was she kept in the dark? She also wrote that she thought health officials should conduct a study, saying, I doubt the industry would support it, but what are the obvious reasons? Because of stock. Yeah. Now, the day after receiving Woodcock's email, Dr. Fauci forwarded it, as we saw. What do we think? Pretty odd statement, as it indicates that they would like to ignore her, but they can't. She's too high up. We'll ignore everybody else. So the monsters continue to be out there, and there was another request that Fauci appear for a written deposition. That's been rejected. Dr. Fauci's attorneys just notified us that Fauci refuses to appear for a private transcribed interview, said Johnson over the weekend. The American people deserve answers to legitimate questions about our miserably failed response to COVID. Some of those questions can only be answered by Fauci.
Hey, Sharon Steffens, welcome to the chat. I can debunk all that. Trump never said that. I played a video last week about that. He didn't. It's a 3-minute video, if not shorter than that. He did not say that. Do your research. Stop watching a 10-second clip, and then that's your facts. The video was way longer than that when he said what he said. Get out your feelings. Yeah, Trump got vaccinated. Yes, he got his shot. Guess what? Most of MAGA didn't get their shot. I didn't get mine. But you guys, you got yours, then you're sharing. You got like 5,000 booster shots. Your body probably transparent. No longer you can see through your body. So many booster shots. On the real, get out your feelings. You come straight into the chat saying the most stupid shit ever with no research. You saw a 10-second clip. Jump in the chat. Trump said inject bleach in your system, disinfectant. No, he didn't.
Arrogantly once stated that he was very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide, but apparently he does. He has a lot to hide.
You know what I'm saying? The thing about it is, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said, I ain't gonna take the shot because under Trump name. Soon Biden and Kamala got in office, all of a sudden now they on TV taking a shot, they boosting the shot for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here, man. Come on, y'all. Do y'all research, Sharon. Get out your feelings. For real. Soon Biden and Harris got in office, motherfuckers, y'all went crazy for the shot. All them booster shots y'all got. Windows up, booster shots. Mask on, booster shots. Like, come on, man. 5 masks y'all got on, and you still getting the booster shots. What is you talking about? We are not a cult. We are not a cult. You are a cult. You part of that. Get off that plantation, for real. It's okay to be free. We all free. We free because of God. What's wrong with you? As soon as Joe Biden got his shot, y'all went to got y'all's. I ain't gonna quit my job. I need my job. I quit mine. Fuck that shot. Now I'm doing better. And then they kept on saying that by us not getting the shot, we gonna be dead in 10 years. We gonna be unalive. We cause unalive for other people for not getting the shot. They was blaming us for not getting the shot. And all along, by them getting the shot, you guys are spreading it even faster. Facts over feelings. And that whole 6 feet rule was all BS too. It supposed to be 24 feet, but they made it 6 feet because they want people to go to stores and buy things. Essential.
Since Fauci refuses to talk about his role and decisions related to COVID, my subcommittee will continue to obtain his records and request to speak with key individuals that he worked with. We will explore our legal options before deciding our next steps, courtesy of Ron Johnson. And he also says he was lying through his teeth. All true. We advise pregnant women not to eat sushi. Don't have a glass of wine. But Fauci and other health officials urge them to get the experimental gene therapy injection during all phases of their pregnancy with no harm at all. Right. We will never know how many babies were miscarried because of Fauci's lies.
He was lying through his teeth. And he's being propped up by the legacy media who've been captured by Big Pharma. But he was abundantly clear that pregnant women should not have got the experimental genetic therapy. We tell them, don't have a glass of wine.
Welcome to the American Debunk, where we break down media hoaxes and expose the strategies behind them. Today, we're tackling the infamous drinking bleach hoax, which claimed President Trump told Americans to inject or ingest bleach to fight COVID-19. Let's dive into what really happened and how this hoax was spread. The drinking bleach hoax alleges that during an April 2020 White House press briefing, Trump suggested Americans drink or inject bleach as a treatment for COVID-19. This claim exploded in the media, becoming a major headline and a symbol of alleged recklessness during the pandemic.
The guy who doesn't care about science and reason. Remember, during the pandemic, Donald Trump told us to inject ourselves with bleach. He said there's nothing to worry about if you do that.
Now let's roll the clip from the press conference. Watch closely to see the context behind Trump's comments.
You are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right. And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
As you just saw, the discussion was about emerging technologies being researched to fight COVID-19. During the press briefing, Trump made off-the-cuff remarks about the possibility of using UV light inside the body to kill the virus. In fact, throughout the briefing, light as a disinfectant was mentioned 21 times by the scientists Dr. Bryan and Dr. Birx, both COVID experts, and by Trump. Trump began speculating whether the UV light as a disinfectant could be brought into the body to kill the virus, as was being studied at the time by several companies. However, this was more of a question about whether it could be studied further. Nowhere in these comments did Trump suggest injecting or drinking bleach, as the media or Biden
Sharon,
later
I told you to slow
claimed.
down on the texting.
Now let's see how this hoax was created and spread.
Sharon, stop texting. Sharon Stephen, Sharon Stephen, stop texting. I'm finna rewind it for you again. You got your smiley emoji up there. You like an idiot. Listen to how you just listen. Jesus Christ, get out your feelings.
About whether it could be studied further. Nowhere in these comments did Trump suggest injecting or drinking bleach, as the media or Biden later claimed. Now let's see how this hoax was created and spread using hoaxology. Key portions of the press conference, including Dr. Bryan's detailed presentation, were omitted in viral clips and reports. This made Trump's speculative question appear to be an official recommendation to the public. This is called selective editing. The phrase injection inside was lifted from Trump's broader comments, completely detaching it from the context of UV light technology as the disinfectant. This distorted the meaning of his words entirely. Once they removed the context, they were able to assign their own context, and the new context they assigned was bleach.
Fuck your feelings.
Thanks for watching. For the full debunk of this hoax and
that's why you by yourself, huh? Idiot. Missed the whole video. Jump right in, talking stupid.
By the way, Oman, don't even think about it. The president says we are going to, kick the you-know-what out of you if you decide to do anything with Iran. But when it came to be that we found they were going behind our back and trying to find other ways to make this a bigger conflict, that's when we said, okay, it's game over, and we're just going to take the thing over. We're just going to make it a U.S. territory. Of course, that comes with a certain amount of responsibility from a military standpoint.
Yeah, I'm going in strong, you know what I'm saying, about people's feelings, because when it comes to me and my chat, you guys don't care about our feelings, you know what I'm saying, our opinions, so it's like, F you guys. You still stay in the chat, you know what I'm saying, if you want to, ain't no problem. But you're not finna come in here try to bully or intimidate me or anybody in my chat, because we don't care about your feelings, you know what I'm saying. We are grown adults in the room. We grown. Common sense. If you can't handle it, go ahead and leave. Other than that, you're welcome. Let's get it.
But it seems we are willing and obviously able to take that one on. But, just so that nobody gets any ideas, the president was speaking with Fox News just yesterday morning and made his intentions vis-a-vis Oman quite clear.
The president told Fox News Iran should raise the white flag of surrender. He went on to say, I have no time schedule. I'm not in a hurry. The president indicating that the U.S. naval blockade is continuing to put new economic pressure on the Iranian regime, despite what the Iranians have said publicly. He said they're good poker players, but they're dying, and that the midterms in the United States have nothing to do with the president's thinking. Now, I asked the president about these parallel talks that are taking place between Iran and Oman about control of the Strait of Hormuz. And the president told Fox News, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the S out of them. We went on to talk about a variety of different regional topics, including the U.S. stockpiles of weapons that are currently stationed in the Middle East. The president says what we've used so far is peanuts. He went on to say the United States has a lot of mid-level weapons and that many of the more advanced systems, the president says, were given away by President Biden to Ukraine, for example, when we're talking about air defense that is needed right now in the Middle East.
Okay. So, we're kind of a big deal. I mean, not to toot our own horn too much, but we are the United States of America. We do have plenty of aircraft carriers. We're sending new aircraft carriers en route there to relieve the USS Abraham. And the reality is, Iran may say it wants a bigger war. Iran may want to escalate this, but we've kind of locked up all our allies there, so they don't have a heck of a lot of friends. I want to take you through the map just a little bit here. You can see, so the Strait of Hormuz, that would be right between Iran and Oman. If you look there, I can't really show you on this map. I need to get like a pointer or something. But anyway, at this point, I think you know where it is, right? I've put it on enough graphic titles on the YouTube channel. Anyway, you can also see they have been quite active with their resources vis-a-vis the Houthis in that part of Yemen that is kind of important because it helps Saudi Arabia get its oil stores out of the Red Seas through to the Gulf of Aden and then into the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. And so they are kind of working up all of their lieutenants, so to speak, that they've got in Yemen, and they are trying to create more of a strangling of Saudi Arabia right there. Don't forget, Iran is very upset because what's been going on? We have got them surrounded. Basically, you've got Egypt, you've got Yemen, forgive me, not Yemen, you've got Saudi Arabia, you've got Iraq, you've got Syria, you've got Kuwait, you've got Jordan, Oman, you've got all of these countries. Oman's a little, on the sus side, but a lot of countries signing on, Morocco, to be more aligned with the United States. And thus, what does Iran do in that situation? It finds itself increasingly in the corner. So now it's kind of striking out. This is its last hurrah. And I don't think it's got a whole lot of time here to be able to play this game. And I say that only because, again, I'm looking at the economics of what's going on, and you're losing somewhere around $500 million pretty regularly. So there's a big article in the Wall Street Journal. I actually want to share some of this with you today because it's rather significant.
The property tax increase in Jersey City has been somewhat alleviated. Mayor James Solomon announcing his proposed 20% increase was cut to 15% after the state sent $120 million to the city, but there is still an $80 million budget gap. The administration says rapid development and a growing tax base not enough to keep up with the rising costs.
Your ideas, your push has sparked change. Addressing this historic budget crisis has been challenging and will continue to be challenging. It is not one that ends today or in the next month or in the next year. We will continue to do the hard work of fixing a broken government because you deserve a government that works for you.
And I'm joined right now by the mayor of Jersey City, Mayor James Solomon. So, Mayor, great to see you. Thanks for being back on Picks on Politics.
Dan, thank you for having me.
So let me get right into it, right? Because of money from the state, you were able to actually revise some of these costs right here, right? So you were able to bring down the tax increase to 15%, which is still a hefty increase for families. And this really comes with cuts to city spending. So where, first of all, can you tell us where the additional spending cuts are happening with that increased funding from the state?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I want to thank Governor Sherrill and our partners in the Senate and the Assembly for delivering the largest aid package to any New Jersey municipality in history. That speaks to the depth of the crisis that Jersey City faces. It also speaks to the depth of the crisis that even with a historic aid package, we are still forced to confront an $80 million structural deficit with tax increases and budget cuts. I heard from my residents that 20% was too much, so we did the hard work of lowering that. We are going to be cutting transportation transportation services. We are cutting park maintenance contracts. We are cutting wherever we can find it, and that has going to be able to reduce our budget by about $10 million. And then we have found through the additional state support, additional funds, and that has allowed us to go from 20% to 15% in our tax increase proposal.
Boy. So we got to talk about a juicy story of the classic "you get what you vote for," the voters' remorse story, as the residents of Jersey City decided to put in a progressive mayor, right? This guy, James Solomon, who the so-called New Jersey Working Families Party, again, the far left party, right? The Socialist Party endorsed, right? This guy was a progressive, and they decided to make him mayor of the city. And when he became mayor, okay, he went back on his campaign promises almost immediately after opening up the books of the city and saying that, hey, wait, hold on. We actually have a huge budget problem, right? We have a budget crisis, $255 million to be exact, right? A budget gap. Now, this guy campaigned on affordability, stabilizing property taxes, and making big developers and corporations, quote unquote, pay their fair share, right? He campaigned, like all the other progressives, basically saying that we don't want to raise costs on the average worker, right? We're not going to do that. We're going to make the rich pay their fair share. And that's how we're going to be able to afford our socialism, okay? This is what he campaigned on before taking office. And then all of a sudden, after getting into office, well, he's going back on his promise, right? He has now basically proposed increasing property taxes on everybody in order to fund the city, because again, the city is facing a financial crisis. It's going broke, right? So he has to figure out a way to come up with the money. It turns out taxing the rich was not enough, okay? In fact, he started off with a 20% property tax increase. He said, okay, we're gonna do 20%. The residents got mad, they got upset, and he said, okay, cool. Well, I heard you, I heard your concerns. How about 15% instead, right? And let's just say, the residents are not happy with this, and they're demanding answers in regards to why is it that you couldn't just, again, tax the rich like Mondami, right? Why couldn't you solve the budget crisis in the same way that Mondami did, right? By, again, taxing the rich and not increasing taxes on us.
The mayor is asking Jersey City residents to stomach a 20% property tax increase. At the same time, his communications team just submitted an expense for a $3,700 digital camera. There's no shared sacrifice with this mayor. It is, he gets what he wants. He wants a clean slate and a full budget that he can spend however he wants, and you have to suffer. You have to make the choice between whether you turn on your AC or you surrender your pet. But his team can go out and spend. Peter Horton submitted a $3,000 meal reimbursement. How many people ate, Peter? Jersey City, I went to today's city council meeting. Here's what I learned. We live in a dictatorship. That's right. Mayor James Solomon is actually King James Solomon. He is the supreme ruler. He is the mayor. He is the city council. He is all of those things. He acts as one, and he does not refer to any other authority besides his own. What am I talking about? The loan we receive from the state is administered by a department called the Department of Community Affairs. Mayor Solomon has been meeting with them all year without any representative from the council. He should have had Council President Denise Ridley in those conversations, but he left Denise Ridley out of those conversations. And also, the DCA owns some blame here, because what do you mean you were just working with the mayor and you didn't think maybe someone else from the oversight side of the government needs to come in and provide oversight?
I've been reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, and they're extremely thoughtful, and you deserve answers. You deserve clear explanations from me as the leader of this city, and that's what I promised when I ran this campaign. So I'm going to go through some of the really tough questions you guys have asked and give you answers. Yeah, so it's a great question. How did Mayor Mamdani do it? The short answer is his budget gap was way smaller than ours based on the size of our cities. So his budget
gap was 13 times smaller than ours. And if we had the same budget gap based on the size of our budget gap would have been about 20 million. We've already cut $55 million from our budget gap. So yes, if our budget gap was the same size as Mayor Mamdani's, we could have cut it. We don't have the same tools that he has in terms of being able to tax billionaires there, but it would be doable based on the size of his budget. Unfortunately, we are dealing with the worst fiscal crisis in Jersey City's modern history, the worst one in New Jersey since Atlantic City in 2015. The size and scope and scale of our crisis is just beyond what they're dealing with in New York, and it makes me livid. It should make you livid. The former mayor left us in such a terrible shape that our finances resemble the type of city that has basically gone through economic collapse. I'm going to do everything in my power to have the burden of this fall on developers, corporations, the 1%, but I haven't constrained by the law. So let me tell you what I've done. We have audited every tax pay given out by a developer. We have now forced developers to pay new fees for water and sewer connections when they were paying fees from 2001. That will get us millions in new revenue. We have sued developers and property owners who were paying less than they owed in taxes.
Yeah, hilarious, right? So in this video that he posted on TikTok, right, you can read the comments. These liberals, they've been bamboozled, hoodwinked, run amok, led astray, right? they're shocked, they're surprised, Pikachu face. That again, socialism isn't affordable without heavy tax increases on the middle class. You can't tax the rich your way into socialism. That's not how it works.
Idiot.
And that's why I love covering these stories, because I have to give you real world examples of how it works. Okay, it's not just theory, right? It's what happens in real life. Like, let's read this, okay? We're also going to get into some protests. Protests are breaking out as well, too, against this guy. But this comment section is so funny, right? This person says, okay, so since there's going to be a 20% property tax increase, how will you make sure that the landlords don't pass this over to the renters? He's not. Newsflash. Yeah, you're going to pick up the bill, right? Yeah, you're going to be splitting the bill, okay? Can I take back my vote? Could you not tax large businesses to fill in that gap? We need a rent freeze ASAP for 5 years as an apology. Not all property owners are wealthy. Bro, you can't make this up.
Oh, wow.
You can't make this up. If this 20% goes through, landlords are going to raise rents 100% guaranteed. This will really hurt little guys like me, and I will get priced out of Jersey City, which I've called home for the last 36 years. I voted for you, and at the end, the big developers win, and we get pushed out. Simple. Jersey City has some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. How are we in this position that our local government needs more money from us? This is insane. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm in heaven right now. I love it. I absolutely love it. In order to ramp a leftist, a progressive, give them what
Happy birthday, Lauren.
they want, because they don't get it until they get it, right? They don't get it until they get it. That's the problem with these people. That's the problem with these people. Now they have to learn the hard way what tax the rich actually means. It always means tax the middle class, okay? It always, every single time. That's what it leads to every single time. So without further ado, let's get into this.
Mayor of Jersey City saying the increase is needed to close the structural deficit that was inherited from the previous administration. And he says he was able to lower it from a previous 20% proposal.
But that's still not sitting well with everyone in Jersey City. Fox 9's Sharon Crowley is live there now with reaction from the community. Sharon.
Yeah, Natasha and Teresa, I believe aggravation, an excellent word to describe how many Jersey City residents feel after the city council approved increasing property taxes here by 15.5%. They actually staged a demonstration, if you will, right here in Jersey City this afternoon, right outside City Hall. Now, here's what we know. Residents gathered to voice their anger at the mayor, the Jersey City Mayor, James Solomon. He insists this property tax increase is is necessary to reduce the deficit and avoid massive layoffs of city workers and cuts in services. He blames the previous administration for the poor financial shape of the city. The city council, as I mentioned, already approved this 15.5% increase in property taxes to pay back an emergency state loan, a loan from the state. The residents, though, as you can hear and see, say this property tax hike will make it impossible for them to live here.
I'm not going to be able to live in Jersey City, not because I don't want to be here. I can't afford to live here. Economically, it doesn't make sense for me to live here.
You mean to tell me that socialists aren't making your life more affordable? Right? You mean to tell me that all that affordability talk was just that? It was just talk. They don't have any real solutions, right? Outside of tax and spend. Tax and spend does not make your life more affordable. Oh, I'm shocked. Pikachu face, right? Again, this is why I say when these Democrats are running around and socialists are running around talking about affordability, listen to their proposals to make your life more affordable, right? It's never, hey, let's spend less money. Let's take less of your money, right? It's never that. Hey, let's take less of your money. That's how we make your life more affordable. No, it's we need to take more of their money, right? The rich's money. But it actually really means that they're going to take more of your money, right? That's actually what it really means, as these individuals are finding out, right? That tax the rich means tax the middle class every single time. But again, they're totally fine with it when they think that somebody else is going to pay. When they think that somebody that has more than they have is going to pay, they're totally fine with it. They support it. I will never forget that poll out in New York City when asked about funding Zohran Mamdani's socialist agenda, right? Closing the budget gap. When voters were asked, what should we do, right?
You're welcome.
They all voted basically to tax the rich. But there was the option of raising taxes on themselves, right? Everybody paying property taxes in order to fund it. Almost nobody voted for that. Almost none of them voted for it. But they voted to raise taxes on somebody that they think has more money than they got. But when it comes to actually raising taxes on themselves, them paying the tax, them funding all of these social services that they claim they need so much, right? I need free health care. I need it. Okay, well, do you want to pay for it? Nah, I don't want to pay for it, though.
It's cool.
Right? I want somebody else to pay for my free health care. While I live off EBT, while I'm obese, while I don't live a healthy lifestyle, right? While I, drag the healthcare system, okay, because of my life choices, I want somebody else to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it, right? Somebody else that got more than me should pay for it. The entitlement of a socialist is insane, right? Seriously. Because again, if they got to pay for it, now all of a sudden they're fiscally conservative. Why are we just cutting spending, right? Why do we need to pay more, right? Why do you need to take more of my money? Okay, again, when you're paying the bill, when you're footing the bill, now all of a sudden you understand how this works, right? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. You can't make this stuff up.
I want to be able to live here. I want my daughter to live here. I want her children to live here. But we can't afford to live here.
It's a question of fiscal responsibility with this city, is that they ran as advocates and champions of the working class, and they are turning their backs on the working class.
Duh. You mean the people run around talking about our policies are going to be great for the working class? Bruh, these people are lying. They're lying. We already have concrete examples. I'm telling you, just look at Western Europe. We have a concrete example of what their agenda looks like.
Right.
We have concrete examples. You don't have to guess. Okay? Look at the UK. Look at France. Look at Germany. Those places are not affordable, right? Not for the average person that lives there. It might be affordable for an American who goes over there for a couple weeks, right? Spending American money, but the people who actually live there, okay, they're not doing better off. Their standard of living is not higher. It is not better than what we have here in the United States of America. And part of the reason why is because of their socialist system, where the middle class is heavily taxed in order to pay for it. There's no free lunch. Now all of a sudden, these people want to be fiscally conservative. Oh, well, see, the city needs to get its fiscal house in order, and they need to cut some spending, right? There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. Right? Now they're all on board with spending cuts if it means they don't have to pay more. It's amazing how that works. Absolutely amazing.
Now, the mayor wasn't able to talk to us today, but he did give me a statement which reads in part, this year is hard, but the work we are doing today will stabilize the budget and ensure Jersey City doesn't end up in this situation again. Now, from the mayor's point of view, the financial audit said that they are in financial trouble here, and he's doing what he can to fix it, but he's not getting much sympathy, Teresa, from Jersey City residents who are very concerned about higher taxes. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, 15% is a tough number to swallow.
It really is. It really is. Especially how this guy literally campaigned on not doing this. Like, I mean, just straight up in his campaign.
There is a radical ideology that is hostile towards Christianity, that is incompatible with Western fundamentals, that has swept through the East, that has swept through the continent of Africa, that has taken over all of Europe, it has entered into our shores. And if we don't have an awakening in this hour, your children are going to suffer in so minds.
Man, wake up.
Speaking about Islam, of course.
Yeah, he said about Islam, you know. You gotta wake up, you know what I'm saying? America's a Christian nation, period. And the Constitution has Christian values in it. That's how I know Christianity is in America. And Islam is going against everything about it. And as a Christian, you got to speak up. This is Philip Anthony Mitchell. Philip Anthony Mitchell. He's going to break down, you know what I'm saying, what's going on when it comes to this Islam situation and how it's going to affect everybody if we don't stop it. And here in America, we are the last stand. It seems like America's the last stand when it comes to this Western civilization and going against the East, Christianity against Muslim. Let's get it. Thanks for stopping by. Her name is Deontay. Ready to rave. Let's go.
Rise of Islam, radical Islam. They're very vocal on social media about their desire to take over America. And I think that
wishing death to America. Come on, you guys. That's not cool. Christianity, we don't wish death to nobody. We pray and love our enemies.
It is a false sense of inclusion. Is why we think that we shouldn't say nothing,
right,
or do nothing. Right? It is the same weakness to take a stand for.
Right. When Jesus was preaching, he wasn't preaching soft. He was preaching raw and the truth. And as Christians, we got to do the same thing. We can't be soft. I don't understand this whole thing about some turning the other cheeks. No. Go straight at the enemy. Go straight at the situation and handle it. It won't suppose in God's hand, number one, because God's going to end the battles and win all the battles. I love everybody. I hate nobody. But when we see it and we hearing from the Islamic, it's not a religion. It's BS.
Christ, that saw the influence of Christianity wane in the East. I think a lot of people in our country think that, Christianity is a Western religion. It is not.
Nope.
It's an Eastern religion. And yet in the place where Christianity was born has been completely taken over by Islam. Right? And so when I just thinking about the people that we're putting in office, when I think about certain cities.
Right, putting people in office based on color. That's stupid. Excuse me, what these people are really about. What are they really about? You know what I'm saying? Besides color. What do they believe in? How do they even work the job?
Cities that's being taken over by that ideology. And I'm seeing a tolerance for that ideology creeping into America. And somebody will listen to this right now and say, you and I are close-minded, that we are bigots.
Drop a comment. Let me know how you guys feel about Islam. Because I feel that we don't need it at all, period. Nowhere near in the world.
That we are not loving towards people outside the faith, and that is not true. I love all men, but I know we have an enemy that is working through men. And that if we don't pick up
your warfare going on,
your children and mine are not going to recognize the United States we're living in right now. We're in trouble, right?
Right, so you gotta stay prayed up, because God is in control. Once again, I'm not here to hit on nobody. But anytime you wish death on people, and you tell me about marrying a young lady at the age of 9, because they bleed, That's sick. Name's Deontay. Like, share, and subscribe. I just want to share that with you guys. I can go all day ranting and raving, but you gotta share this video. Let people know. Wake up. Wake up, Christians. Wake up. God is in control. We can let this happen. These people are trying to take over and destroy America. We already seen what's going on overseas. It's not working. Other countries have tried when it comes to socialism, and it failed. His name is Deontay. In this video, this man is going to break down how socialism and capitalism does not work. Many countries have tried, and they failed. And it's not going to work in America. And we know it's not going to work because capitalism works. It's been working for 250 years. Why change it? Constitution is great. Thanks for stopping by. Let's get it.
So now, Colombia rejected a socialist, Peru rejected a socialist, El Salvador, Chile, Honduras, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, all rejected Marxist or socialist leadership. And Venezuela was destroyed by socialism. Latin Americans are rejecting socialism after having tried it. So why are Americans accepting socialism having never tried it? Well, partially because most Americans don't know what socialism is. It's not healthcare for all or affordable housing.
So again, this video, he's going to break it down to you guys. I'm glad you guys are here. So we need to understand what's going on. Do your own research. Share the video, do your own research. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you.
Socialism isn't a synonym for all the things I want, but I'm not getting in my capitalist country. It's not a vibe. It's an economic system characterized by collective or governmental ownership of the means of production. Means of production meaning infrastructure used to produce goods and services like factories, farms, and companies. Capitalism also isn't a vibe. It's not billionaires and corporations controlling politics. It's not a synonym for all the things I hate about my country. It's an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, aka the means of production. Now, just like Mac versus Windows, there are different versions of capitalism and socialism. Finland, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden are less capitalistic than America, but they are still capitalist. Although they have a few exceptions to the rule, private companies own the means of production, not the government in those countries. Now, you might like certain programs that socialism promotes.
That's a problem, the government. Less government, the better.
Like universal health care. But those programs aren't tied to a specific operating system. You can run Photoshop on Mac or Windows, just like you can have universal health care in socialism or capitalism. But it seems we as a people keep getting more confused about what socialism is. In 1949, 34% of Americans correctly identified socialism as government ownership of the economy. By 2018, only 17% did, and I suspect it's even worse now. American politicians are confused too. In 2015, Denmark's prime minister had to correct Bernie Sanders and say, Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. Zoran Mamdani is a...
Yeah, speaking of Bernie Sanders, so they kicked him out for being president and put up Hillary. And I think some chick named Han, whatever, she lost. So dude named Crowley ended up winning. People don't want this stuff, man. They don't want it. This is a popular thing, a little phase. And Democrat went too far left with it. Now they in panic mode about it. Now they want to go against it. But it's too late now. You're in bed with it. But MAGA, Republicans, conservatives, we got this. USA, baby.
Democratic socialist. Democratic socialism is a version of socialism. Now, you could argue that socialism just hasn't been done right yet. And when every socialist experiment at the national level in the 20th century failed, and every experiment in the 21st century is failing, maybe the problem isn't that socialism hasn't worked in practice, that it almost certainly can't work in principle. And maybe the assertion that this time will be different isn't optimism. It's actually just unfalsifiability. A theory cannot ever be contradicted
by actual evidence. We have bugs in this version of capitalism that need to be fixed. Principally, that there's too much money in politics, that billions of dollars speak louder than millions of voices. And you know what? The socialists might create healthy pressure to fix those bugs. That's good, but that's different than changing the whole operating system. Sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, because when there's never been a successful socialist country in history, and the
What you guys think, chat? The man breaking down a lot of stuff, man. What you guys think? Is socialism sucks.
countries who have actually experimented with it are abandoning it, the results start to speak for themselves. And lately, they're speaking Spanish. If this made you feel calmer and clearer, and you want to practice talking about topics like this without losing loved ones, join us at Clear Thinker Academy. Link in bio.
Thank you guys for stopping by. I want to share it with you guys if it's needed. Once again, do your own research. Share the video, subscribe to the channel. Love each other. We can't hide this, you guys. 9 countries tried. Didn't work. It's not gonna work here in America.
Cuba in the crosshairs again, the Trump administration ratcheting up sanctions, this time on the military, and at the same time sending in spies.
Time is running out for the communists running Cuba, which is running out of everything. And while the dictatorship running this failed state is circling the wagons to resist the United States at all costs, America's government is flooding the island and waters around it with military assets, which experts say means something big is about to take place.
Tonight, trash piling up on the streets in Miramar, where embassies from around the world are located.
Cuba has undergone an unprecedented energy crisis. Just over the past 4 days, most Cubans have had zero electricity. You guys released a 100-page report on Cuba, calling it the capital of 21st century communism. And this report talks about the fact that Cuba's goal essentially is to erase the United States from the earth.
It's unrecognizable.
I'm waiting to collect my wages. People are angry and shouting.
It's hard to get up, to go to bed without electricity, wake up without electricity.
I make $6 a month, and it doesn't cover anything. I have to buy everything. Clothes, shoes, there's nothing in it. Anything I put in would just spoil. Too many hours without power.
If you look at the history of espionage in the United States, Cuba is the only country that consistently has implanted and embedded spies in our system without even paying them. A failed state 90 miles from our shores that happens to be aligned with adversaries to the United States is a national security threat to our country.
Why would the U.S. be sending intelligence assets to Cuba unless something big was going to happen? And why is nobody talking about how Cuba, right now in 2026, stands as the greatest example of communist failure in world history? Well, as you're about to see, that's because the socialists are trying to move out of Cuba and into the highest positions of the U.S. government. But they won't be able to do that if voters realize Cuba should have been a communist success because it's an island run by a military dictatorship where escape is impossible, which means those greedy capitalists and rich people can't run away before the government takes what they have and gives it to someone else. Yet their system hasn't worked. It has imploded in real time, all because of itself, all contained in one little place, and now sadly the streets in that place are covered in darkness. And now the clock is ticking because the people of Cuba need to be rescued, and here's how that can happen. The United States has an ongoing blockade of this island and the regime running it, but at the same time, a $100 million aid package was recently agreed to, which provides U.S. food and supplies to private organizations on this island, bypassing the communists to feed their own people in a way they never could. And now that the communists are cut off and their people aren't, experts say the writing is on the wall. Which brings us to what's really going on in Cuba. We're looking at siege warfare. against Cuba's economy to get it to change in a way that frees things up for its people. This whole blockade thing is going to end the second the regime running this place steps down, which it doesn't want to do. And right now the regime is scrambling to allegedly find a new leader who, according to them, is going to do things differently and rescue the communist economy here that's never worked. Something the United States says is completely unacceptable for normalized relations because it's Cuba's system of government that seeks to subvert the United States while stealing from its people every single day and needs to go away in order for this place to succeed. But as you're about to see, this is pretty much the only thing on this island the regime running it still cares about and wants to survive. Look at this.
In Miramar, the upscale Havana neighborhood where embassies from around the world are located, not immune to effects of these spiraling shortages and blackouts.
What's this?
Though with full electricity, this assembly of leftist organizations from 25 countries in Havana,
where'd they get the
Cuba's
power?
president front and center, they're there in solidarity, an anti-imperialist calling to arms and calling the U.S. a
Of
threat.
course.
La agresión no terminará en 2028.
The aggression will not end in 2028, and acceptable terms will not be reached with a weakened stat. Its very weakness makes it more violent.
So, the Cuban communists don't have any power for their own people, don't have any resources for their own people, but they've got plenty of that stuff for themselves somehow. And what are they using it for? They're using it to attack our country. They're using it to talk about what's going on in America when what they should be worried about is what's going on in Cuba, but they don't care about their own people. They only care about power. They only care about spreading their power. And that's the whole problem with Cuba. It's not just that, as Secretary Rubio said, this is a failed state 90 miles off the coast of Florida that is a threat to our country. No, it's a failed state that seeks to subvert the countries around it, including the United States. And now with U.S. spies being embedded in Cuba, it looks like something is being done to sow the seeds of destabilization, which could cause this regime to change. And as you're about to see, most people in America have forgotten or have never been educated or do not know why that's a good thing for the entire Western Hemisphere. Look at this.
You guys released a 100-page report on Cuba, calling it the capital of 21st century communism. And this report talks about the fact that Cuba's goal essentially is to erase the United States from the earth. It also details a Cuban spy network that's been undermining American interests. How did we get to a place where Cuba has become so much of a threat, it feels like, again, to the United States?
I think for those who have followed the issue of Cuba, or this is not unfamiliar to us, but to the average American, you see Cuba, small country, 90 miles off our shores, 9.5 million people population. What people forget that when it comes to things like espionage and influence operations, they actually are an influence and espionage superpower. If you look at the history of espionage in the United States, Cuba is the only country that consistently has implanted and embedded spies in our system without even paying them.
That's insane. And think to yourself for a minute. Right now, Cuba, it's in perpetual darkness. They have no power. They have no economy. Things are collapsing. But there's a room full of communists with power. And what are they talking about? They're talking about the U.S. election system and what's going to change with America in 2028. You know who else is talking about that? The very communists that are trying to take over America from within. They're very concerned about the 2026 midterms. They're very concerned about who the nominee for their party is going to be in 2028. There's like a full court press going on right now between communists, both inside of our country and outside of our country. They all want the exact same thing. And this is the kind of thing that many of us look at and say, oh yeah, this is just, something that these guys are doing. It's just propaganda. It's no big deal. No, they've got this Hasan Piker character out there. They brought him and a whole bunch of other socialist influencers and thought leaders. These people were put up in a 5-star hotel in Cuba to talk about toppling America. That's what these people are concerned about. They're not concerned at all with the well-being of their own people, just like the communists in America aren't concerned at all with things like affordability that they're using to talk about their agenda when their actual goal is to hit us all with communism by surprise. Nope, they don't care any of that. They just want their power to spread. That's what they're looking for. Watch this.
A U.S. ambassador who ended up being a Cuban spy and was recently convicted. We've had them penetrate the highest levels of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Ana Belén Montes was one of the single biggest intelligence failures on the part of the United States and one of the biggest penetrations we've ever had in our system. So, and then on the influence front,
it's crazy.
All throughout Latin America, every communist left-wing insurgency that's destabilized governments across the region, every single one of them over the last 40, 50 years has found its support, its help, in many cases its birth from a Cuban influence operation.
That's wild when you think about it, because for the last 40, 50 years, Cuba has not been succeeding. Cuba has been mired in poverty. They blamed the United States the entire time. But what have they been doing? They've been dedicating all of their time and all of their energy to what? Subverting governments in our hemisphere, going into countries like Venezuela with their military apparatus in exchange for cheap Venezuelan oil so that there could become a regime support network over here, which did not benefit the United States or any free country in South or Central America? Absolutely not. These guys are on offense. They're not some island full of people who mean well and are being attacked by the United States every single day. No, these guys are out there doing the attacking. These guys are not helping with their dictatorship and the spread of communism. The free peoples anywhere that want prosperity and want law and order and want to better themselves, no, their only goal is expansion. And once you understand that, it makes sense why they've got these influence operations going on in the United States. It makes sense why they're constantly trying to subvert our government. It makes sense why there's a room full of communists right now beating their chests about how they're going to take us down, which is something they're serious about, something that they're going to do with help from their allies who are already inside our country. Look at this.
Been influenced to the rise of Antifa, the riots that we saw in 2020, as well as the surge of radical activism that we've seen all over these college campuses. To the average person, those things, I think, feel generally organic, but it turns out there are a lot of different powers, Cuba being one of them, that are influencing all of these things day to day.
It's the same network of protesters around the country. They were the same people you saw on the streets burning things in 2020. They then flip it around and they become the pro-Hamas protesters, and they flip it around and within 48 hours of Maduro's arrest have pre-printed signs outside the courthouse demanding his release. And then they're out there doing the ICE stuff, attacking ICE agents.
They don't love our country at all, these protesters, and every single thing they're protesting directly benefits America's enemies, and then we find out that Cuba's funding some of these protest activities. So when you see people out there that are at an ICE facility and are protesting, and they're making it look like, oh, these are just average Americans that woke up one morning and said, gee, we think the U.S. border should be wide open again because we think that's a good thing for our country. We think that helps our country. Understand that that viewpoint is being paid for and is being directly set up and funded and organized in many cases by people that want to see the communists take over our country as well. That's what this has all been leading to. All these riots, all of these protests, everything going on here since 2020, and even before that.
There's nothing organic about it. It is funded, it is organized, and Cuba is a part of that network, and in some cases, a critical part of that network.
That's scary.
And it's a network they will weaponize against us. And they talk about it openly, about how they will use that network to pressure American policymakers, not just here in the United States like Code Pink, but all over the world.
Tell me it's not working to some extent. Tell me that when these mobs were out there in the summer of 2025, that ICE didn't look bad, that they didn't make those men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our country's borders, both at the southern border itself and in the interior of the country, they were maligned. Their families were tracked down. They were doxxed, and it was a foreign government that was doing that. Those protesters, those people out there that are being paid by a foreign government, whether they know it or not, how can you look at that and not say that that's a national security threat? How can you not say that a foreign government creating a mass movement inside of our country with money and resources from outside of our country is not a direct threat to our own sovereignty, when the thing that they're fighting for, the elimination of our border, is the first step towards eliminating American sovereignty? I mean, the pieces here are so simple to connect, but it just seems so wild that such a small country, which is just off the coast of Florida, that doesn't have the military or the resources or the economy that we have, could be capable of so much, but they are.
Critics of this report, of course, are saying, oh, well, these are scare tactics to potentially justify some U.S. military action action against Cuba. It sounds like this is something we should take seriously, and this report sounds very real.
Everything in there is factual, and frankly, I don't think they can dispute it. People can argue that we shouldn't do with it, and I know there are plenty of people in American academia and frankly in American press that sympathize with the Cuban regime and have for a very long time. Part of it is motivated by their anti-Americanism, and part of it is motivated by ideological affinity. There are enough people in key nodes of our society, including professors, but frankly, in the past, we've seen people within our own government that sympathize with the Cuban regime
and want to appease them. Remember what President Obama did when he went down there to Cuba and he met Raul Castro and shook his hand and talked about how things were going to be great between the United States and Cuba? Well, that never happened. And why did that never happen? Well, it never happened, not because the United States is some terrible, awful country and doesn't like Cuba and the United States has the wrong president, again, President Trump, who doesn't want to... No, that's not what happened at all. Cuba's very system of doing things, their communist dictatorship runs itself into the ground and can only exist with handouts from the rest of the world. Remember, they were getting free oil from Venezuela. They were being propped up by every other regime out there. Iran was helping them out. Then you've got the Soviet Union, which has turned into the Russian Federation, which loves the fact that Cuba's right there, 90 miles away. I mean, they're basically selling what they have as a place to access a base, which is very close to America. That's not good. Who's over there? What are they up to? Which governments are teaming up, beaming intelligence or spying operations directly into our country? This is all bad news. There could never be good relations between the United States and a country that's ideological viewpoint is to get rid of our country. Just like they're getting rid of their own people, sadly. It's terrible how they steal from them and impoverish them, yet they're on some mission for this to spread. That should frighten everyone.
It's the way they get spies without paying them. But it doesn't mean we can ignore this threat. Put aside for a moment my history, the fact that I'm Cuban American, the fact that I grew up in Miami. This is 90 miles from our shores. A failed state 90 miles from our shores that happens to be aligned with adversaries to the United States is a national security threat.
It sure is.
I want to move quickly to Venezuela.
It sure is a national security threat to our country. Cuba's been nothing but a national security threat to our country for decades. And remember, they're not just a national security threat to the United States. All the left-wing activities happening in Central and South America, this is all tied back to Cuba in some way. These left-wing groups that are trying to infiltrate other governments and topple other governments and set up regimes all over the place, they've always had a helping hand in Cuba. Just look at the relationship and how cozy it was between the Maduro regime in Venezuela and the Castro regime over there in Cuba. These guys are buddy-buddy. They were all on the same ship, trying to spread their influence and lock down power and steal the resources of the great people of these countries. But now the question is, what's up with this U.S. military activity? Is there going to be some sort of invasion? What does the Trump administration want to do? The president's come out several times and said that he might be the president who has the honor of taking Cuba. What on earth does he mean by that?
Analysts and covert influence specialists to identify and exploit divisions within Cuba's ruling elite.
This is all part of a plan that Washington has to maybe crack the Cuban government at a time that they still show no willingness to open up or change their
zero willingness.
Last month, this State Department report built a case chronicling the history of Cuban spies partnering with Russia and China, sowing division in the U.S. Some revealed after damage done. Manuel Rocha spying in plain sight. Before that, Juan Pablo Roque.
So we've got documented cases of Cuban infiltration operations in the United States and in the U.S. government. And then we've got politicians like Karen Bass, the anointed leader of Los Angeles, who received training in Cuba for some bizarre reason that we don't fully understand. And then we look at her policies and we say, oh, yeah, there's definitely an alignment here. Now, I'm not saying she's a spy, but if the communists here think the same way as the communists in Cuba, we're going to have a big problem because these forces want to intersect. They've been trying to do this for a long time, but we don't teach this stuff in the history books in our country. All we teach in our schools is that it's America that's the problem in the world. We teach people that the reason Cuba's no good is because America's actually no good. And if we would just go away, this self-contained regime with its wonderful system of communism would have been able to thrive, even though the opposite of that is what's going on there right now. And at the same time, these spies that are in there, well, Cuba's in a weak position. There's no longer a U.S. president or government around that can appease these guys into the success that some of our past presidents have thought was due them and never showed up because of United States aggression. And if you add to the idea of spies spies with a military blockade and some sort of potential raid on the country like what we saw in Venezuela, things here could change rapidly. Watch this.
Decades, nothing new here, and it's been scaled back over the last 10 years because of, remember, the medical conditions that the diplomats were getting that they ended up calling the Havana syndrome.
Oh, yeah, and Havana
pressure
syndrome.
keeps mounting and mounting. And here's the billion-dollar question. We keep hearing President Trump repeat action on Cuba soon. So could this ramped up intelligence gathering be part of a military invasion?
You know, well, military action is almost always part of any military action anywhere in the world. So, you know, the possibility exists. And remember, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, he was in Cuba in May, and then days later, remember what happened? Raul Castro indicted.
What's interesting is that this is the same playbook we saw the United States use on Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. Remember, Nicolas Maduro had been indicted in the United States for various crimes. There was an arrest warrant out for him, and then there was the raid that extracted him from his bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning and had him in a New York City jail before he even was fully awake. And when the CIA director was in Cuba, which was in May, who did he bring with him? He brought the paramilitary leader involved in the Maduro raid to meet Cuban government officials. That sends a very clear message that what just happened in Venezuela and freed the Venezuelan people quickly and as peacefully as possible could happen again here in Cuba. Nobody wants that to happen. What did Trump tell Maduro? He told Maduro, you should leave. You should get your family out of Venezuela right away. That's what I suggest you do. And Maduro said, yeah, I'm sticking around. Well, the Cuban government, they've gotten the same message. Now there are indictments on the table. Now the CIA director's running around with the people that captured Nicolas Maduro. That must not sit well with people in that country. However, what do they think? They think that if they can drag this out, just like other regimes that the U.S. is dealing with, if they can drag things out as we get closer and closer to the midterm elections, they think they can get a sympathetic U.S. government once again that will once again appease them. So we may see over the next few weeks the willingness to have talks, the willingness to enter dialogue, the willingness to pursue a new path and get some sort of new deal, when really these guys will just be buying for time, basically trying to give themselves enough time to get to a point where Trump can't do anything, which in their minds will allow them to maintain themselves as a regime, continue doing what they've been doing to sow discord and communism within the United States. What do you think about that? Do you think the president's going to act before the midterm elections? Do you think we're going to see something big? Or is this all a show? Is the CIA director going there? Does that mean nothing? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.
Correct.
Trump just declared the Strait of Hormuz to be new territory. Listen.
Last week you said that you would soon declare the Strait of Hormuz to be a territory of the United States. Could you elaborate
Well,
what you meant by territory?
Yeah. We control it. We control it with the blockade. We have a blockade. We control it with the blockade. And I like the idea of declaring it a territory. We have total control over the strait. Now, they can be a nuisance. They can put a mine in the water, and people don't like having mines hit their billion-dollar ships, etc. But the blockade has been very effective. And, we're taking out, now maybe that will stop, or maybe it'll open up even further, but we're taking out millions of barrels of oil a week. If you look at the kind of numbers that we're doing, the strait is open. And the oil prices are coming down, and they will continue to come down unless we decide to do something far more drastic than we're doing. Iran is in big trouble. They have 300% inflation. The country's a mess, and the military is totally defeated.
But as you can imagine, CNN not too thrilled with this. Listen.
Prior to this war, no one had full control over the Strait of Hormuz. And then on Friday, President Trump suggested that it would become a U.S. territory. He posted a map today. You can see there on the screen that says new U.S. territories circling the Strait of Hormuz. Maritime law experts, of course, have been skeptical of this move. And it comes at the same time that Iranian officials are laying out their new demands for reopening this strait. They say that the U.S. blockade must end.
And let me make it clear, until America implements its commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding, including lifting the blockade on the release of frozen assets, lifting the oil sanctions, ending threats and military operations on all fronts, and other conditions that America has agreed to under the understanding, the strait will not be reopened.
Well, how are we supposed to do that when allowing Iran access to money just gives them what they need to continue being a hostile aggressor in the Middle East? And at the same time, it looks like the U.S. has already taken the Strait of Hormuz just without making it official yet. Watch.
Thanks to the coordinated efforts of the U.S. military and our Gulf allies, the 7-day average for oil leaving the Strait of Hormuz is currently up to almost 9 billion barrels a day.
That's huge.
But combined with the additional 5 to 7 million barrels a day leaving the region via newly upgraded pipelines and export facilities, total oil flows currently averaging approximately 15 million barrels a day. On Sunday alone, and this would have been a week ago, over 20 million barrels left the Arabian Gulf region, which is above the pre-conflict average.
Yeah, we're already running the strait.
They're about 10.5 million gallons, but you say that they don't accurately count all of the ships that are moving through the strait. And what does your data show?
They don't know where those ships are.
Exactly, John, because the commercial things, they're looking at ship tracking devices, these so-called AISs that all ships use. But we're in a conflict zone right now, so the ships have all turned these off.
Of course.
We have military escorts every day. We've been doing this since early May to bring oil and gas out. I get a report every single day telling which ships went out, what they were transporting, where that ship came from.
And you know who's not getting that report? Hostile news networks that might expose how successful this whole thing is, but we've got the numbers. The price of oil does not show the $100 to $200 a barrel America's enemies were hoping would happen so that Trump would fail and collapse. And there's more. Listen.
What they were transporting, where that ship came from. So ours aren't estimates. We have the actual data.
Yeah, they know.
I saw a headline this morning saying it's almost been choked to a stop, the ship traffic in the Strait of Hormuz just recently this weekend.
Fake news.
30 ships transited the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, and more than 30 transited the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday. So no, that's just not true. Yeah. We're continuing to get oil and gas and other critical products out of the Strait of Hormuz. And thankfully, with President Trump's energy policies, we're by far the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas. And that's why I'm down here in the Permian Basin, the largest producer of that oil and natural gas.
So even if the numbers were 30 tankers or 30 ships per day, that's still down from a pre-war high of about 130 ships per day. When can we expect to see the traffic increase back up to pre-war levels?
Yeah, a lot of people want to know that.
Oh, I don't know the future, but I will tell you, we're going to continually get better at escorting traffic out, and the power of Iran is going to continue to shrink.
So because of the blockade. Remember, they're not earning any money. They don't have the ability to pay their troops. They've got massive inflation, as the president said. All of these things point to a regime that is about to collapse. The experts are saying that with the blockade the way it is, within 2 to 3 months, this whole thing wraps itself up if the U.S. does nothing. On top of that, Trump is talking about taking the Strait of Hormuz, declaring it U.S. territory. That's going to put Iran in a very weakened position, and that is going to last long after Trump is president. Listen.
The U.S. naval blockade remains in place, and questions remain about
we're getting those answers.
What happens now? The MOU has expired. The Iranians are still targeting vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. They're still threatening the life of President Trump. Do talks continue? I think, as we said, I mean, we continue to have communications, and when the deal's ready, the deal will be ready. Deals are hard. I mean, it's funny. President Trump is always aiming for the impossible deals. A lot of politicians say, well, this is too controversial, this is too hard. He thinks more like an owner than a renter, and if something's virtuous, he's in his second term now, he's got a lot of experience, and his goal is to really focus on the big things that will change the world long after he's no longer president and no longer he's here. So he's really trying to kind of focus on the big things, and that's why he's focused on this issue, but he's going to hold out to do something that is the right deal that he believes will withstand the test.
Wow, and that's the president's son-in-law, and he's the one that's out there working on this deal, and he says, look, Trump is focused on stuff that is going to change the world long after he's gone. How does a deal that allows this regime to continue for another 47 years change the world long after Trump's gone? No, everything is on the table right now.
That's why I voted for Trump, because he goes for long term. None of that quick fix BS, you guys, The man's a billionaire for a reason, not no quick fix, quick scheme. Legacy, long term. Man, it makes a lot of sense. If the man know he can be president not that long, why not make sure everything's set up for his kids and grandkids?
What happens next? And remember, the U.S. has 50,000 personnel over there in the Middle East. And every single day, here's what they're up to. Listen.
Iran can't export any oil right now. That's part of our economic strangulation.
Zero
but the
oil.
world doesn't need Iranian oil. Do we need other oil outside the Arabian Gulf? Absolutely. We have a bunch of allies there that are exporting their oil and gas, and we will see increasing exports from them, John. It is a balance here. We're fixing a 47-year-old problem with this government in Iran and the threat of nuclear weapons. But it does cause some disruption in the short term. But President Trump's policies have made us ready for that disruption.
That's so
which brings me to my next question. Even though you've been getting on almost pre-war levels, and on some days pre-war levels or pre-war levels of oil is still, it's on the screen there, $83 a barrel, up from, I think, low 60s back in early February. Why is the price of oil so high if almost all the oil that was getting out before the war is getting out now?
Because as you said, almost all. We're not fully back to the full flows, so there is a disruption here. But I've got to point out, oil prices were far higher during the Biden administration.
Thank you.
When there wasn't disruption of flows in the Middle East.
Can you imagine if Iran had acted then when American leadership was already doing everything possible to appease them and oil was already much higher? Do you know what control they would have over the global economy with weak U.S. leadership, with the communists running America that want to see Iran come out of this thing stronger as they keep proclaiming to us? On top of that, if this territory, if this right here is the U.S.'s territory and the U.S. controls it, not only will Iran continue to make $0, every other country over here, Oman, the UAE, everybody else is going to be able to get this out through new pipelines, which means Iran will be completely isolated. And even if the regime there wants to stick around, they're going to be a regime that doesn't have the ability to fund itself and doesn't have the ability to threaten anybody. And that right there, the fact that they can't pay their troops, that they can't sustain a massive military and a massive domestic arms industry means their days of being a regime are over no matter.
Yep, everything on TV, far social media is propagandized. It's all weaponized. That's why we gotta stay prayed up, you guys. Stay prayed up, spirit discernment, get them radars up, get them antennas up. A lot of BS going on. All this AI stuff going on. Yeah. You don't know what's real. Gotta stay prayed up.
What? Listen, but just before we continue, this is a paid advertisement for Rumble Wallet, who's sponsoring this portion of the show. What if your bank told you no to your own money? Delayed transfer. Most people never try. Official rules for details.
When there wasn't disruption of flows in the Middle East. And another huge thing for energy prices in the United States is democratic policies at both the federal level and at the state level. Electricity prices are more than 40% higher in states run by Democrats. Gasoline prices are 40, 50 cents a gallon higher.
There's your unaffordability.
With Democrat energy policies.
Thank you.
So foolish green energy policies, they're at least as responsible for high energy prices as the conflict with Iran. And the conflict with Iran is going to lead to a better world going forward. These sort of foolish green energy policies don't lead to a better world in any way, just a more expensive world.
Right. Yeah. So President Trump said today to Trey Yingst here at Fox News a few things about what the timetable for Iran is. He says, I have no time schedule. I'm not in a hurry. They're good poker players. The midterms have nothing to do with my thinking. We learned today that export traffic out of Karg Island is virtually ground to a halt. I mean, they're just getting out a fraction of what they were getting out before.
Karg Island, that's their oil export hub. That's where all of Iran's oil is coming from. The blockade has exposed Iran's biggest economic vulnerability. So here Iran is, they're thinking that, hey, if we take over the Strait of Hormuz, we've got this strategic asset that we can use to threaten the world economy and to shut everybody else down. But really, that was a massive miscalculation, because once they went and did that, they ended up being the ones getting shut down. Iran's oil clock is running down, and the real fiscal shock is going to hit in the fall when all their payments come due. Iran pays its troops, government employees, security forces, and industrial workers in cycles, with about 60% of the money coming from oil exports. Well, that's now down to zero, and if its oil exports continue to be hamstrung in the next cycle, the regime will have few options to shield its soldiers and elites from economic shock. Now, what can they do? They've already got hyperinflation, 300, 400% inflation. They can print money and pay people and just give it to them. But then what? That's just going to collapse things over there faster, which means that this regime's ability to maintain its stranglehold on this region, that's out the window. And if they can't pay their troops, I don't know how they're going to pay their troops to stop. And
Steve, you okay? All the news is propaganda. Do your own research. Get out your feelings. Welcome to the chat. It's beyond Fox News, CNN, all that. The whole thing about it is we the people. Not we the media, not we the government. It's we the people. When it comes to America. The media is trash. They all actors. They all getting paid to bullshit. And they want the ratings to go up, because when BS happens, the ratings go up. If everything is good, they ain't reporting nothing that's good. They should. But it's not going to work with the narrative.
internal rebellion. Listen to this.
When you look at the price of oil, then it's not great, but it's not bad.
And besides, Steve, welcome to the chat. I don't just play Fox News. You know that, right? If you didn't know that, I don't just play Fox News. The videos I be playing, these people be showing all types of news point of view. And I be playing Sky News Australia also as well. So I don't just play Fox. Welcome to the chat.
Either that the president's got a lot of latitude to really wait Iran out here as the economic sanctions and the oil embargo really squeezes them.
I think he does. The president is playing the long game. He wants to leave the next generation of Americans well supplied with energy and without the existential threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. He's playing the long game, and with his lean-in pro-energy policies, the world can fill this hole. The hole is shrinking as we get more oil and gas out of the Gulf. We're growing energy production in Venezuela. We're growing energy production in Alaska. We're growing energy production right here in Texas. The Permian Basin, the largest oil and gas producing region in America. What is its future? Growth. This is hardworking Americans. This is innovation. And this is the federal government enabling America to be energy dominant.
Of course,
one of
the big arguments, Mr. Secretary, between the U.S. and Iran, who's going to control the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump yesterday said, well, why not America? Listen here.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
This is wild.
Essentially, that's what we have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
So here was the response from the Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran. Strait of Hormuz cannot be seized by tweet, nor by aircraft carrier, nor by issuing an order, nor by an election speech. The Strait of Hormuz has been Iranian, is Iranian, and will remain Iranian. The strait will only be closed and open under Iran's command. And as long as you do not accept the reality of defeat and cease your fanciful delusions, Iran will continue to enforce the blockade. Again, it come down to the Black Knight and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. No arms, no legs. Come here, I'll bite your legs off.
Exactly. Look at the words of that Iranian deputy foreign minister. Their exports today are 0 barrels of oil per day. The United States military is bringing out 8 or 9 million barrels of oil per day.
Wow.
Is that America that's controlling what's happening there, or is that Iran controlling what's happening there? The data's pretty clear on that. That's America.
Think of the position that Iran is in if the U.S. takes the Strait of Hormuz. If that happens, and that's U.S. territory, and they're not allowed in there, it means the blockade is going to continue forever, because this is now U.S. territory. And it also means that they would have to get oil out over land. That would be their only way to export oil. How are they going to do that? Okay, so here we have the Strait of Hormuz. You can see Iran right here. They've got Afghanistan over here, and then over here they've got Iraq. So their only pathway to get out oil is through the Strait of Hormuz, and that has totally backfired on them. They're going to have to bring it out over land. That means they're also going to have to drive through Iraq, who they've recently had pretty poor relations with. Or look at all this terrain right here. You got mountains in Afghanistan. I mean, their oil, the energy secretary is saying the world doesn't need Iran's oil. I don't know how they're going to get it. I don't know how China, who's all the way over here, is going to get Iran's oil. I mean, they would need a pretty long pipeline to get that oil shipped to them directly. That would take a long time to build if they could even build it. Look at all the countries they'd have to go through. Iran has isolated themselves. They've played all of their cards, and like Trump said, they're bad poker players. They're losing. They're not winning this thing. The numbers do not speak to an Iranian economic victory over the Strait of Hormuz. The numbers do not speak to an imploding America. If anything, the oil of the world is now coming from the Gulf of America, and it's going to come from Venezuela and Guyana. So people are going to come over here. Oil prices are going to go back down as the U.S. gets better at escorting ships out of the Strait of Hormuz, and as these countries like the United Arab Emirates build their pipelines around the Strait of Hormuz. This whole thing is going to be irrelevant within 2 years as a destination to even get this stuff. And what does that mean? It means that the United States is going to have an easier time controlling this proposed new territory, the Strait of America. I don't know if Trump's going to call it that, but as Iran makes less and less money and has less and less of a military to threaten what's ever going on there, controlling that area is just going to be easier because there will be less opposition, and there's not a thing that they can do about it. Hopefully this means freedom is on the horizon for the people of Iran, at which point the U.S. could say, hey, guys, great news. You've got a peaceful government. You want to have peace with your neighbors? Go ahead. Take this area of the world back. Run it yourselves. Bring your oil out. That's what's on the horizon here. At least that's what I think anyways. What do you think? I'll see it.
We're live on location at Stanford University, and joining me today is an economist, author, scholar, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and living legend, Dr. Thomas Sowell. Welcome to the Rubin Report.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you.
I feel I have to get the gushing out first. That way we can focus on the book. I don't know that there's anyone on this mortal coil whose writing and thinking has influenced me more than you. So this is truly an honor for me, and I just have to get that out right at the beginning.
I just hope I haven't misled you.
We'll find out. I'll let you know at the end. So first I thought I want to do a little bit on your history, and I want to focus on your new book. But I was curious if you have a sense of the sort of renaissance that your writing is having right now with young people. Because when I tweeted out that we finally had you on the show, and we've been trying to make this happen for quite some time, I mean thousands of responses. And I had tons of people just say, please.
What's up, Steve? Welcome to the chat. Once again, not everybody is MAGA. Not everybody, what you think they are. Everybody's opinion matters, I guess you could say. But yeah, Tim Pool cool, David cool. But let's get it. Thomas Sowell, great mind.
Tell him this, tell him done this. My awakening was because of Dr. Sowell, all of this. Are you noticing something happening right now because of the unique place we're in?
I only know what people tell me. That's even true at Stanford.
Yeah.
I only know what my research assistants tell me.
All right. Well, I will certainly accept that. Well, take my word for it then. So I want to talk a little bit about your history for a bit, and then we'll move on to your new book. Born North Carolina.
Yes.
Grew up in the Bronx.
Harlem.
In Harlem. Tell me a little bit about some of your formative years.
Well, I thought about it as I was doing the research for the first chapter where I get into the birth order thing. Now, had my parents lived a normal lifespan, I would have been the sixth child in the family. They died young, and so I was adopted in infancy in a family as an only raised as an only child in a home with 4 adults. And in terms of what I found about the research on birth order, clearly that was a huge advantage. And so their misfortune was my good fortune. And moreover, the family in which I was raised moved to New York, which at that time had a far superior educational system to that in North Carolina, and far superior to what it is today.
Were you always interested in education? I mean, even as a young person?
No. A little kid. There was nothing in my background that would have put me there. But fortunately, in Harlem, there was a kid named Eddie that members of the family had run into before I ever arrived from North Carolina. And he was came from a highly educated family. And they immediately saw the implications if they could get him to sort of mentor me. And now, had I had met Eddie on my own, chances are I would never have seen any significance. He would just have been one of the people I passed by. But of course, the adults understood what the future was like, and thinking about things that kids don't think about, despite the great worship of child talkers these days. And so he took me to a public library, and I had no idea what a public library was. Wow. I was 8 years old, and I saw all these books, and I had no idea why we were there when I don't have any money to buy one book. And so what am I going to do with all these, hundreds of books up on the shelf? And he very patiently walked me through the whole thing. And again, I was very reluctant to take out a library card because I didn't know what all this is about. But he talked me into it, and I borrowed a couple of books. And really, had I not encountered him, the entire rest of the story could not have been the way it was. I mean, at some point, I would have learned what a public library was, but by that point, it would be too late.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start getting the habit of reading when you're 8 years old, that's a different ball game than if you have to wait till you're a teenager. It's too late now.
Dare I ask if you have any recollection what you might have taken out of the library at 8 years old?
One of the books was the Dr. Dolittle books. I don't know if you even know what those are. He could talk to the animals.
Yep.
Alice in Wonderland, and the rest of them. But I came in on May, and school wasn't open until September, so I had no one to play with, and I was just bored to tears. And so I started reading, really for the first time, and I got the habit of reading. And on that, that made the rest possible.
Yeah. Were there any other formative things that happened to you over those younger years?
Yes, the same fellow was very knowledgeable all about the school system. So when I finished elementary school and they assigned me to a junior high school in a very bad neighborhood, he told me that you can get transferred. And I, in fact, got transferred to a much better school. Had I gone to that other school, again, the story would have been entirely different. One of the themes of the early part of the book here is that there are a whole number of things that have to come together. And if you don't have all of those prerequisites, then whatever good qualities you have don't matter. And I mentioned illiteracy, that, in the middle of the 20th century, something like 40% of the adults in the world were still illiterate. And so it doesn't matter what their native talent or any of that came along. You can't read. There are a whole lot of occupations you just simply can't get into.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear from all the reading of yours that I've done, you put education basically is number one, right? I mean, is that the number one thing that you can do as a human being? Get educated?
I guess, although I wouldn't carry it too far, because some of the most disastrous notions in the world have come from highly educated people with, I'm sure, high IQs.
So perhaps critical thinking with a little education.
I will settle for almost any kind of thinking. It's so rare these days.
It is oddly rare. So one of the things that I found out that was sort of amazing about your history, you briefly mentioned it right before we started, you were a Marxist at one time in your life. Most people will find this hard to believe, but it is true.
But it's not that unusual. Most of the leading conservative thinkers of our time did not start off as conservative. You had a couple like Bill Buckley and George Will, but I mean Milton Friedman was a liberal and a Keynesian. Hayek was a socialist. Ronald Reagan was so far left, at one point the FBI was following him. You know, so there's a huge movement from the left to the right as people get older.
Yeah, I'm well aware, as I mentioned to you earlier, as a former progressive, I understand that movement in the modern sense. Do you remember sort of what you were thinking, what appealed to you at that time about Marxism?
Yes, I mean, there was no alternative being discussed. My first job was as a Western Union messenger, and I would come home on some nights. I would take the Fifth Avenue bus, which cost all of 15 cents in those days, but I figured I'd splurge now and then, and I would drive. It would go all the way up Fifth Avenue, past all these Lord and Taylor and all these fancy places, and then I would cross 57th Street past Carnegie Hall and down Riverside Drive, and that was sort of the Gold Coast area. And then as I came across this long viaduct, and it turned into 135th Street. Suddenly, there were the tenements, and I wondered, why is this? I mean, it's so different, and nothing in the schools or most of the books seem to deal with that, and Marx dealt with that. So it's like winning an election when there's only one person running.
So then, what was your wake up to what was wrong with that line of thinking?
Facts. Well, you know,
we could probably end the interview right.
Wow. This is my first time playing this video, first time seeing it, all of that. When you guys see the title, you know what I'm saying? Facts over feelings. And here we are, Thomas Sowell, baby. Man, great mind. Here we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, facts. There you go.
And specifically, my first professional job, I was
facts over feelings, baby.
Summer intern at the U.S. Department of Labor. And I realized from dealing with these people that the U.S. Department of Labor, one of my biggest concerns was about minimum wages. It has been for a long time. And so at first I thought, well, this is good because all these people are poor and they'll get a little higher income, and so that'll be helpful. And then as I studied economics, I began to see, well, there's a downside. They may lose their jobs completely. So that's that. And so when I was at the Labor Department, I tried to talk about that to them, and eventually I came up with some test of it. And when I came up with this test, how we might test this, I was waiting to hear congratulations. You see, that I had this, and I could see these people were stunned. They said, "Oh, this idiot has stumbled on something that will ruin us all." Wow. You know? And I realized the U.S. Department of Labor had its own agenda and interests, and that did not necessarily mean that whether poor people lost their jobs from minimum wages or got higher pay was their highest priority.
Yeah. How much longer did you last at the department?
That was really the turning point.
Yeah.
And then I began to see that all these government agencies and whatnot, they have their own institutional incentives, and you cannot say that the government will step in and do what's right for these people and whatnot, because they'll do what's right for themselves.
This video is sponsored by Call-She. It's like buying or selling a stock, except the line isn't set by some algorithm working against you. It moves based on where the actual money goes. It shows where people are putting their money, not what the media wants you to. Are going through this right now. They're realizing that the things that they've been taught for so long are not the truth and are not based in fact. When that happened to you and you started telling other people, not just the people you were working with, be it family or friends, what kind of pushback did you get? Because it was sort of radical ideas in a way that you were talking about then.
Well, I didn't feel any need to do a lot of proselytizing. It was enough for me that I was now beginning to understand things I hadn't understood before. And as you've noted in the book, I mentioned minimum wage studies, and really they're incredibly flawed. Mm-hmm. There's a whole chapter on numbers. And the other thing, getting back to my personal development, I mean, I left home when I was 17, no high school diploma, no skills, no job experience. And I discovered that there was not a huge amount of demand for people like that. But in retrospect, decades later when I do research, I realized that in 1948, the unemployment rate for black 16 and 17-year-olds was 9.4. For whites the same age, it was 10.2. And those numbers are much smaller than we're used to in recent decades. And there's no serious racial difference. In fact, the blacks in my age bracket were doing just slightly better. And of course, one of the things that the minimum wage law does is that it creates unemployment, raises it to multiples of what it was. 1948 was a special time because the minimum wage law was passed in 1938.
What's wrong with you, Steve? You can't keep up? Keep on getting timed out. What's wrong with buddy? Take it easy, Steve.
And in the intervening 10 years, there was huge inflation, and the law hadn't gotten changed. And so for all practical purposes, there was no minimum wage law. But had we had these wonderful liberals insisting that I be paid a living wage that would support a family of 4, I would have been unemployed. And I don't know what that would have led to.
Right, it probably would not have led up to everything else. So when you think about these wonderful liberals, as you just said, I think there's sort of two lines of thinking. One is that, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I try not to besmirch...
And it's a super highway.
It's a super highway, exactly. I try not to besmirch their intentions. But then I think there are people that are either have confused thinking or have ulterior motives or whatever else. What do you think it is? As someone that is so based in fact, and we're going to get to plenty of that fact in a moment, what do you think the thinking is, the flaw in the thinking?
Oh, I think it's the idea that you don't have to check a good-sounding idea against what actually happens. The whole there are people to this day who think that the 1960s was just a great period. And I'll say to them, do you realize how many good trends, the murder rate among black males had been going down for 2 decades. Mm-hmm. By 18% in one decade, 22% in the next decade. And in 1960, it suddenly takes...
You guys, this man is 96 years old, born June 30th, 1930. And this man is sharp as a tack. Literally, look at this man. He ain't stuttering. He knows his history. The man lived it. He's almost 100 years old. A living history right here.
The U-turn straight up. And that was not peculiar to blacks or even to the United States. Piker's book about violence, that throughout the Western world, the homicide rates did a U-turn. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely a genius, man. A great mind, man. I'm glad Ruben interviewed him. This is good for for you guys, good for me, because he's an economist.
1960s. So the question is, what actually happens when you put your wonderful ideas to work? Do they produce the kind of thing you thought they were going to produce, or do they produce all the opposite in many areas, and they produce lots of opposites?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Steven Pinker. I had him on the show a few weeks ago, and yes. I think he's one of the clearest thinkers we have. And his new book, Enlightenment Now, is that things are trending more positively. But even hearing that is very hard for a lot of people.
Well, it depends on what your baseline is. Pinker is much more optimistic than I am. I happen to be very pessimistic about the future, but I hope the optimists are right.
Do you think you're a pessimist by nature?
No, but I think having studied so many things that sounded so good and ended up so bad, it makes me doubt, especially when there are people who are anxious to spout off with very little study of what they're talking about.
Yeah, we've got a lot of that these days. Do you think that has ramped up? Or I think social media seems to amplify things, but do you think it's always been that way, about just sort of this endless pontificating of people that really don't know what they're talking about?
Well, there's always been that, as long as there have been human beings. But the question is the magnitude of it, and the ability of various institutions to shut out any other viewpoint, and of which the universities are the worst examples.
Yeah.
That when I see the riots when Charles Murray shows up, and I happen to know Charles Murray. I mean, if you can demonize Charles Murray, you can demonize anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and I listen to see what are they going to quote that he said. I've never heard a single quote of it. All the books the man has written, they never quote anything he said.
Yeah.
And a lot of what he said is the direct opposite of what they claim he said.
That tells you a little bit about sort of the state we're in right now.
Yeah.
So this thing that's happening on college campuses right now that everyone seems to think is freezing free speech, and it seems to be speech that's generally thought of as right. So it's conservatives, libertarians, further people on the right than that. You're saying that's really not a new phenomenon. You were kind of facing
it was not that bad in the 1950s when I was a Marxist, and when Senator Joe McCarthy was tracking down anybody on the left. But I said whatever I felt like, wherever I felt like it, and I got no such blowback.
That's really interesting. So McCarthy's talking about all this stuff, but you had no problem being an open Marxist.
He was in Washington, I was in Cambridge, and so be it.
Yeah. So you do think something has gotten worse now?
Oh, no, there's a number of things. Venereal diseases, for example, were going down at a very steep rate. It was either syphilis or gonorrhea that was 1/2 as prevalent in 1960 as it was in 1950. The brilliant idea was to bring in sex education, you see, to avoid unwanted pregnancies and so on. And venereal diseases skyrocketed. Unwanted pregnancies, teenage pregnancies skyrocketed. It's amazing that so many people on the left are able to just ignore any facts that go against their theory.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does not. My old mentor at the University of Chicago, George Stigler, argued, however, that economists have very little influence. And what they say makes very little difference. And he was giving a talk at the Hoover Institution once. He said, thanks to years of dedicated work by Tom Sowell, the next minimum wage increase will be 5 cents an hour less than it would have been otherwise.
Well, that's what's interesting to me, is because as I preface this with you, I think that the writings that you've done all these years in these books, they're becoming culturally relevant, maybe in a way that they weren't. I don't even want to say it this way, but maybe in a way that they weren't economically relevant. Do you understand the point there? That I think there's a cultural relevance to all the things that you've done for these last 40 some odd years that seems so actually powerful and impactful to me right now, which is incredible.
Well, when it comes to impact, that's the story entirely. I mean, long ago, I stopped accepting invitations to testify before congressional committees. It's an absolute waste of time. They have made up their minds, and they just want to be able to say they've heard all points of view.
And then it pretty much stops there.
That's right. And I remember once Kenneth Clark, I was debating him, and he was beside himself because of my supposed sinister influence in Washington during the Reagan administration. And I told him, if my influence in Washington is all you have to worry about, you're a very fortunate man.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of anything that happened any different than if I had never said anything to anybody.
Oh, man. You're being very humble, sir.
No, I'm just realistic. I mean, I can't find. I can remember testifying before one committee, and the audience was so rowdy that the chairman had to bang the gavel to shut them down. And they had put some little tiny thing in the law they were building, and I would bet the rent money that provision is gone now, because there are so many people who didn't. I was saying that if you're going to help poor kids, then give the money to the kids, or else provide it for wherever they go. Don't turn it over to the institution, because they will then use it in an entirely different way.
Are there any examples where the money is turned over to the institution, whatever the institution might be, where it really does work? Are there any aberrations in most?
There must be somewhere by the law of averages, but it is not prevalent.
Yeah. So a couple times you've mentioned liberals, and one of the things that I talk about on my show often, because I was a progressive, I was a lefty. I now call myself a classical liberal, and I've tried to make the point that being a liberal in the traditional sense has very little, if anything, to do with the left anymore.
Yes.
Are there any? Do you see any sort of meaningful distinction between classical liberal and libertarian at this point, or do you see even? I'll ask you a couple things at once, and you can go any direction. Do you see any? Do you see a difference, of course, between liberals and the left? I mean, the words have all sort of gotten
Milton
muddled,
Friedman
right?
used to always say that he was a liberal. So did Hayek. And of course, in different countries, the word means different things. In Australia, if you said you were a liberal, they would understand what you were saying. But a liberal in Australia is different from a liberal in the United States.
Yeah. So when you say liberal, you mean leftist, basically.
Yeah,
right?
and the American sense of the word.
Yeah. Do you think there's any sort of real distinction that needs to be made between classical liberal and libertarian? That's one of the things that people ask me all the time. And I know you're not big on labels generally, but I did read something where you said that the closest thing that you could be labeled as is libertarian. Is that still where you're at?
Yeah, except of course in foreign policy.
We can talk about that too.
And I mean, I guess also the libertarians seem to have this atomistic view of the world, which I think is completely unrealistic.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Because I mean, not only in my life, but in the lives of people around me, the surroundings make a huge difference. One of the things I get into a lot in the book is the disparities imply either discrimination on the one hand or genetic differences on the other. And disparities are the norm. I mean, I was just reading something the other day, that Latin America has 8% of the people in the world. They commit 38% of all the murders. And in Latin America, 38% for that. But in Latin America, 80% of the murders occur on 2% of the streets.
Wow.
So, but you find that when you look up facts, that's what you find over and over again. In all the discussions of income differences, they never take into account age, and age is huge. I mean, Japanese Americans have a median age of 50. Hispanic Americans have a median age of 26. Now, when you see Hispanic Americans greatly overrepresented among baseball stars, and not a single Japanese American baseball star in the major leagues, I don't believe in entire history.
Yeah. Well, we had Ichiro on CNN.
No. There are people of Japanese ancestry who've become baseball stars.
Yeah.
All of them are from Japan. None of them are Japanese American.
Ah, okay, fair enough. Right, he was a star in Japan for that year.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how many 50-year-old men are going to be baseball stars?
Yeah.
And by the same token, how many 26-year-old men are going to be surgeons or CEOs? Any other kind of job that requires long years of study or long years of experience. And so even if they were the same, if the two groups were the same in every other way, and if there was absolutely no distinction or discrimination and whatnot, they still would be a huge difference in income simply because of age.
And that really is what this book is about. And the book itself, it's about 160 pages. But what I loved, you know how many pages of notes you have in there? Do you know offhand by any chance?
Well, I know 127 pages are text, and the rest of it is notes.
Yeah, so you had about 30 some odd pages on notes, and I actually started going through the notes because I thought this is exactly what we need now. Like when I was reading it, there were pages that I had to read more than once because you're obviously giving a lot of numbers and facts, and you have to look at these things from different angles, and we're not very good at that these days, right? We're sort of look at things from one angle, and then you start the screaming. And I think that's what you're really a master of here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I try to, but we'll see how it works out.
We'll see. Do you make any meaningful distinction between sort of a classical liberal and a libertarian? Is that just sort of?
That's wholly peripheral, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, just trying to get a few simple facts across is a full-time job.
Yeah. All right. So then let's talk about some of the facts that you lay out in the book. You talk about two types of discrimination. Could you lay those out?
Yeah. The word has almost opposite meanings. I mean, the first meaning, when they say someone has discriminating taste, you mean he can tell what is a good wine from a bad wine, what is a good camera from a bad camera, and so forth. And that's almost the exact opposite of the meaning in the law, where you mean someone who judges someone by what group he comes from, irrespective of the individual's actual personal qualities. So those are two very different things. Ideally, you would like every person to be judged as an individual. But as a practical matter, that becomes impossible because the costs are prohibitive.
Yeah. So
I use the example where if you're walking down the street at night and you see a shadowy figure in an alley up ahead, I mean, do you judge him as an individual, or do you cross the street and go across on the other side? Because the cost of judging him as an individual can be very high, including your life. So we make that distinction. But then I say that I call that discrimination. Discrimination one is when you just have a very good understanding of what the facts are. And so if you judge each person as an individual, I call that discrimination 1A. Mm-hmm. And then if you judge them by the group they belong to, that's not as good, but that's discrimination 1B, but it's still based on some facts. Discrimination 2, which is what reason we have anti-discrimination laws, is that you don't worry about that at all. If he's someone that you don't like for whatever reason, then you biased against it.
If you or someone you love is on Medicare, this is worth paying attention to. Medicare can be confusing, and a lot of people end up on the wrong plan without even realizing it. That's where Chapter comes in. They're independent Medicare advisors who compare every plan available, not just the ones that pay them the most. They'll look at your doctors, prescriptions, and healthcare needs to help you find the plan that's right for you. If you're already on the best plan, they'll tell you, and if not, they'll help you switch. The call is completely free, takes less than 20 minutes, and seniors who work with Chapter save an average of $1,100 a year. Don't guess when it comes to healthcare. Call Chapter today at 332-867-0207 or visit askchapter.org/Ruben. Once again, that's 332-867-0207 or visit askchapter.org/Ruben. Are you shocked when you look at what's going on right now and see so much talk about race all the time? So much talk about all of the things that separate us, the very things that you've been arguing against based in fact for so many years that seem in an odd way more, I don't think there's more racism now than ever or more of these dividers, but there's more talk about it.
Yes, and it's devastating. I mean, wars in general are much easier to start than they are to stop. I mean, when that fellow in Serbia shot the Archduke, I mean, who knew that was going to cause millions of people around the world, including people from the United States about 10,000 miles away, are going to come over there and start shooting.
Yeah, the Great War.
Yeah, and you can't get, and I'm worried about the current trade war. You start a trade war, you may never be able to stop it in the next decade because there are too many people involved, too many cross currents of interest and so on.
What would you do about our school systems?
Oh my goodness, I'll try to be rational.
Do try.
They are so awful. The public has no idea what. I'm reading a book about schools, and the woman who's writing it, Diane Ravitch, is talking about how teachers have due process before they can be fired. Now, when you look into the facts of it, right down here, and I think it was Atherton, it cost $500,000 to fire one incompetent teacher. You don't have a big enough budget, And right. In New York, you have something called the rubber room. These are teachers who are so incompetent that the principals don't want them in the classroom, and they get paid full salary, and they show up, and they accrue pension rights and so forth. And the last time, I forget how many millions of dollars are spent a year in New York paying for teachers who don't teach, and in fact don't do anything but show up at the same time as if they were teaching, and they read magazines or whatever they feel like doing. And this farce goes on at a time when they don't have enough money to provide the kids with decent supplies.
So how do we scale back this? I mean, we can talk about it through the lens of education, but in any area where the government has taken on a bigger role than it's supposed to, I think one of the things you hear all the time is it's sort of too late. I think a lot of people think it's too late to take back that government power.
No, heavens, during the Reagan administration, that was the only time I know of when the Federal Register grew smaller, where they compile all the laws that have been passed in a given time. So it can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. There was some issue that Reagan was discussing, and someone said, it's complicated. He said, it's not complicated. It's just not easy to do. I mean, right now, one of the big farces out here talks about affordable housing, and they're appointing blue ribbon committees to look into why there's no affordable housing. And I say that's like appointing a blue ribbon committee to explain why the ground is wet after rain. I mean, it's very simple. If you prevent people from building housing and the population is growing, you're going to have a housing shortage, and you won't have affordable housing. It's really, economics won during the first 2 weeks.
They're not very good at taking economics 101, I don't think. So would your answer be in almost every case to just scale back government, scale back regulation?
It depends on what they're doing. There are some things that government is necessary to do.
So what are those type of things that you...
for security, first of all, having dependable laws. Some people think that if you're for free markets, that means you don't think the government should do anything. No, the free markets don't operate except within a framework of laws. That's wholly different from having them operate with politicians jumping in at unpredictable times to suddenly pass some new legislation.
Yeah. What can we do right now? I mean, so really this would be about just sort of electing more libertarian-minded politicians then? I mean, is that really the only way we can change things, do you think?
No, I think the main thing, people have to know what the facts are themselves. If everyone knew what all the facts were, I think you'd have an entirely different set of people elected. I can't believe that either of the presidential candidates in 2016 would have been the candidates if you had an informed public.
Yeah, we're not very good at that. How much of this do you think is part of the media's fault? That's one of the things.
Well, the media are mostly uninformed. No, they're not uninformed. They are misinformed. Mm-hmm. And they simply do not check the facts on large issues or small.
Yeah. What can we do to fix that, do you think? I mean, I suppose this, right?
But
writing books like this.
Well, but I think more fundamentally, the public that votes has to itself become informed and not be so easily stampeded by slogans and a few numbers thrown around, like women make X% of what men make and so on.
Yeah.
When I was studying that some years ago, for example, I found out that young female doctors made much less money than young male doctors. That seemed like very odd. But when you're looking into it, you discover that young male doctors work an average of 500 hours a year more than young female doctors, and they get paid for the 500 hours. But there's no reason why the women and men should be doing the same thing. Their circumstances are different.
So are there any laws that are in place right now that you believe are discriminatory one way or another towards any community or against any community?
I would have to write a much larger book to cover them all. The minimum wage law is absolutely devastating. The policy of saying that you cannot have more kids from one ethnic group disciplined in the school than from another is nonsense. I mean, groups are different from each other in umpteen ways, and just have the presumption that they are the same except for the way they're treated is nonsense. It's never been true, and I don't know why we would think it's true here today.
So I do sense that some of what you just said there is bubbling up into the national conscious, because I get a ton of email from black conservatives now, people that feel that they haven't been represented fairly, or that the so-called leaders of the black community that are on television all the time are actually preaching the complete reverse of everything that you've said here.
Yes.
Do you sense that there is some sort of growing conservative movement within the black community?
There was a time when that community consisted of me and Walter Williams. I know Walter used to say the two of us should never fly on the same plane, otherwise the whole movement will disappear if the plane goes down.
Well, I mentioned to you before we started that Larry Elder caused my awakening because I was a progressive and I said something to him about systemic racism on air, and he beat me senseless with facts. And I had to go back and reassess what was wrong with my thinking.
Well, you know, in one of the chapters there, I have a little section about the era of apartheid in South Africa, and I had that in there because there's so much argument about how much racism is there and so forth. I said, let's test this hypothesis in a setting where there's absolutely no doubt of it, and that's apartheid in South Africa, with a government where blacks are not allowed to vote and so forth. And you then apply the economic principles, and you find that the economic principles apply in South Africa, that there are some occupations. See, blacks weren't allowed by law to be in certain occupations more than a certain percentage, and in some occupations couldn't be hired at all. In some of those occupations where they couldn't be hired at all, well, illegal to hire them at all, there were more blacks hired than there were whites, because there are economic factors that come in, and you don't just pass a law and that automatically produces the results you want.
Yeah. Can you go into some of the economic factors that you mentioned there? Because I thought it was sort of interesting about the types of jobs that black people had and why that would affect.
Well, it's the competitiveness of the industry, and the competitive industry, discrimination in the sense that we use for anti-discrimination laws, it costs the discriminator as well as the others. Now, insofar as that price can be evaded by the discriminator, he will discriminate. For example, minimum wage laws. When you have a minimum wage law, you have more people applying for jobs in those categories than there are jobs available, because raising the wage rate causes more people to apply and employers to hire fewer because they're more expensive, and so you have a chronic surplus. Now, if you've got a chronic surplus in an industry, it costs nothing to discriminate. But if you have a competitive market, then of course it does cost something. For every person that you discriminate against who's qualified, you've got to hire somebody else, and you've got to raise that pay rate in order to get people in. So I show how competitive industries have much less discrimination than, say, regulated public utilities.
Have you ever finished a conversation, an interview, or a meeting and realized that the most important part wasn't what you forgot, it was what you never wrote down? That's why I've been checking out Plod. The idea is simple. Some things are just, if your day is filled to 15% off. So I was wondering when I was reading it if you were ever going to talk about how now technology is also changing this. So we see a lot of these movements for $15 minimum wage, and I know why you don't think that's a great idea. But even now, where we see McDonald's and some of these other places just replacing people with iPads and computers.
This has been happening. I don't know. When I grew up in Harlem, when you went into a movie theater, this is a little neighborhood movie theater in Harlem, there would be a kid who would walk down the aisle with you with a flashlight to show you to your seat, you see. And so now that we have so many compassionate people who want people to be paid a living wage, you actually stumble down the aisle to your seat the best way you can, because they're not going to pay you the kind of money, that's unrelated to productivity.
Yeah. What would you say to the people? I hear a growing movement of people saying, well, this is why we need a universal basic income, because technology is going to force so many people out of the workplace.
Oh, that argument has been made for centuries, and it's been proven wrong for centuries. I would ask the question, what has happened? We've moved in that direction already. We have lots of people who can live off the welfare state and not have to be productive. And are they better people as a result of that? I saw some time back, and I haven't followed this, that young people, the suicide rates among young people were among the negative consequences of the 1960s. You've taken all meaning out of people's lives, and so they find all kinds of crazy things to do, drugs, whatever. And again, it's not peculiar to the United States. You find this in Britain, other countries. And so, again, people who say this almost never look at any facts about what's happened as we expanded the welfare state. Did people behave better? No. I mean, one of the things moments that I remember very well. When I was back in the school in Harlem for some reason, maybe doing research, and I looked out the window and I said, when I was a teenager, I used to walk my dog in that park, and looks of horror came over the students' faces, because that was a different world. And so, and when I tell them that I used to sleep out on a fire escape on hot summer nights with who could afford air conditioning, and they think I'm a man from Mars. People did that all over New York. They did it in Washington. They did it in North Carolina. Relatives in Washington used to go down Haynes Point down near the Jefferson Memorial on hot summer nights and sleep there. So sometime after midnight when the heat wouldn't be so bad, and they'd go home at that time. You'd be out of your mind to do that today. It'd be too dangerous.
Yeah. So how do we sort of untie some of this? So my sister right now lives on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, not too far from Harlem, and she's in a half rent stabilized or rent controlled building, yes, and half market price. She's on the market price, so she's paying to be in a 2-bedroom in New York City. I don't even want to tell you how expensive it is. But then there are basically half of the building that's paying next to nothing, and that of course incentivizes people not to get off the dole, because if you're living in a nice area on the Upper West Side, very cheap, why in the world would you ever get off the dole? How do we start solving these problems? And I know facts is your bedrock answer.
Yes.
But what can we do to get people to understand some of this stuff? Because it seems so basic to understand. If someone was giving you something that you didn't earn,
again,
it's hard to.
This is common. One of this in Europe, in England especially, it's a special problem, because you have this place where your rent is subsidized, and say you're in London, and jobs are disappearing in London, and they're opening up in Manchester. Now, if you go to Manchester, you get on a waiting list for that kind of job. And if you stay in London, you're unemployed, but your rent is low, and so you slow down the movement of people. You slow down the turnover of people in these apartments. But again, most people who talk about this don't even talk in terms of if this, then that. They talk about it as this is how the world ought to be. Well, heck, I can think of all kinds of things of how I think the world ought to be. But unfortunately, most of those things involve a cost, a trade-off.
Do you think there's a system or a government that's doing it better, doing freedom better than we're doing it here? For all the flaws that we have in this system, is anyone doing it better than us?
Oh, there may be marginally so. But I think most of the Western world is less free than it was, say, 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
By what measurements do you view that?
Oh, just the amount of regulations, things and also by consequences. I was reading Milton Friedman's. He and his wife had a joint autobiography, and she's looking at one point. She says looking back on the days when she would ride the IND subway in Manhattan, and what a joy it was. And she said, in those long gone days. And the IND subway goes through Harlem. And Milton Friedman and his wife, when they were still courting, used to go dancing at the Savoy Ballroom. Very few people want to, and the famous theme song of Duke Ellington, Take the A Train. Mm-hmm. The A Train goes right through Harlem on the IND line. And so Friedman, who was only 5'2", had no fear of being mugged or even accosted, and go there. And this was common. There was a black actress who used to get finished with play and her socializing afterwards. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, she said she would be taking the subway up to 155th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue by herself and walking home. Nobody does that these days. And so you have to look, one, at what are the facts? How did they change? And you don't simply say. The other thing is that they're saying the No Child Left Behind thing with Bush. Mm-hmm. There are kids who go to school to raise hell, and a handful of those can prevent the whole class from learning anything. Now, the logical thing would be to separate those kids out and let the ones who want to learn something. You can't do that because the ideology says no. And so You sacrifice whole generations of poor and minority kids for this ideology and this utopian notion.
Yeah, and we end up in an odd dystopia, probably.
Yeah, and Milton Friedman used to say, the best is the enemy of the good. And of course, it would be better if everybody could be educated at the same time. It can't be done.
So as someone that has survived the arrows and the venom that the left can throw at you, because I see a lot of this these days, I see even what they say to me, I get a lot of email from people saying, how can I be brave enough to do it? And I think it's particularly a unique situation for minorities that consider themselves conservative or libertarian or a little bit to the right. So I mentioned Larry Elder before, and of course you and my friend David Webb, and there are some more black conservatives than perhaps there used to be.
No question about it.
What would be if someone's watching this right now and just needs that little extra bit of courage to start saying...
No. You have to look at the circumstances. I mean, I've advised some young people schools because the odds are so stacked against you, and people can write bad references for you, especially when you're young, and what they say about you is all that someone sees. Now, by the time I was teaching at some of these schools, I remember one place where the department chairman used to threaten one of my colleagues that he wouldn't write good references for him. I'd published stuff while I was still in graduate school. I had Milton Friedman and Joyce Taylor to write references for me. What this guy said there as chairman of the department wouldn't matter a bit. But most people don't have that situation.
Yeah.
And so you have to pick your fights.
So I want to, time is limited here. I want to mention one thing that you say right at the end of the book, that really what we need more than anything else, perhaps, is common decency.
Yes.
And we've kind of lost that.
It isn't common anymore. I mean,
it happens to me all the time, and it happened just this week.
Damn, Coconut. Coconut, Ariel, you crazy. Wow. Alright, you guys, I'm going ahead and end it. I'll be back tomorrow a little bit early, if that's cool with you guys. It's time to eat, you know what I'm saying, some dinner with the wife. You guys are a blessing. Love you guys, love each other. MAGA, non-MAGA, we cannot have Sharia law in America, period. I don't give a fuck. No Sharia law. Love you guys.